It's your boy Dabrand knows. We back with another one. We're gonna get right into this. Harrison Ford, give it up.
To grow and expand and build thanks to your help at thealexjonesstore.com. So we get back on the other side. We're going to go right into a video of Alex Jones explaining the latest in the lawsuit, our countersuit seeking to bring down the deep state that's tried to destroy us. We are fighting back because of your help at thealexjonesstore.com. Support us, and we will continue to fight, continue to grow, continue to keep them on the run.
One of the things you've been talking about on your show is your allegation that government officials are aiding in pedophilia, child trafficking, and the grooming of children, right?
Well, you mean like what Jeffrey Epstein did with the Clintons?
Big news happening over here at InfoWars. Alex Jones, well, he's clapping back when it comes to his lawsuit. As many of you guys know, it's the Sandy Hook lawsuit that I'm referring to. Alex had several of his constitutional rights violated in all of this, and he's answering back by now filing a lawsuit of his own. It is his second amended counterclaim in the bankruptcy court right now. That was just filed yesterday in Houston, Texas, at the federal level. And Alex is joining us now live to discuss. Alex, I'm glad you're here right now, and you're going to detail for our audience exactly what this means. I know there were several constitutional rights that you personally had violated in all of this. So break down your latest filing.
Well, most of the regular listeners know the incredible 6-7 year saga of the deplatforming, the demonization, Bloomberg's gun control group being behind it. They raised with their Sandy Hook charities over $300 million off of my name, saying I was persecuting them and I wasn't. They then sued me. They had 2 political judges default me, saying I was guilty, didn't comply with discovery. In our lawsuit, we showed none of that's true. And then we show how the Justice Department was involved with their chief counsel in Connecticut. They admit going and setting up the suit, recruiting the people. And then all the things that happened after that, particularly with the judge in Connecticut. And that's the basic conspiracy against rights. And when people team up with the state to deprive someone of their rights. And we've seen this with Mike Lindell last year. He was defaulted by the federal judge in Minnesota. Anybody can type in, judge finds Mike Lindell guilty in Smartmatic case. And the judge didn't see any evidence, nothing, just said, you cannot connect to a Smartmatic machine wirelessly or to the internet. Well, they're designed to do that, but he wouldn't see the evidence. Now Smartmatic's in a lot of trouble. There's been indictments, same thing with Dominion. Now they've dropped their cases on others. They've tried to now settle with Lindell. He announced 2 weeks ago on my show, and he said, no way. He's going to go ahead with the jury trial later this year in Minnesota, where the judge has already found him guilty. But good luck, because now this is all going to be known. There it is. Judge rules my pillow guy, Mike Lindell, defames Smartmatic with false claims. So that's a default. That's only supposed to be if you leave the country, don't respond at all. As Mike Cernovich, great lawyers, pointed out, he went and looked at the case years ago. I went to dozens of different depositions, close to about a dozen. I gave them everything. And when you actually read in our suit, they show how they defaulted me. They said that I would show them the Sandy Hook marketing material. Well, you work at InfoWars. There isn't marketing material for stories you cover. I don't even know what stories you're about to cover every day. You're working on a journalist or reporter. So they said, no, we know you have that. That was one of the reasons. We tried to depose Hillary Clinton. They said that was another reason we were defaulted. And then they said that we wouldn't give them Google Analytics. Google Analytics is just an internal Google search engine of your website. Okay, so we barely ever even used it. Don Salazar, one of our writers, occasionally would see how his stories were doing. I never use it. Anybody can see that around the office. Everybody testified to that. They said, show us your Sandy Hook Google Analytics that I talked about Sandy Hook to make money. I barely ever talked about it, but that was the basis of their suit before they got me defaulted. Then they used all the stuff that they twisted in the show trials they had in Texas and Connecticut. There was all the so-called discovery. And the best they had was other people's emails unopened to us saying mean things about Sandy Hook people. That was all they had to show the jury, was people I never opened the emails talking bad about them. Wow, that's terrible. I never said the names of any of the Sandy Hook families except one guy. They said it's the families. That's 20 families. It was only 6 people, not the families. They set up foundations that, again, raised over $300 million off of my name. It turned out the Justice Department funded the lawsuits to the exact amounts they were being billed to them with grants each time they were going to trial. So this is all in this lawsuit. And so when you read, it's called a counterclaim because we're already in a lawsuit with them. We've already filed one against them in the bankruptcy court, but this is amended with all the information we learned in the depositions with them in the last year and a half to great expense. And so this goes into all the different things that went on. The lawyers from the Paul Weiss law firm and others openly saying, from the Koskoff firm and from the other Bankston firm, that we don't want money. We want him off the air. We never want him to be able to do it again. We want to use him as patient zero to do this to other people. And now they've done it to Giuliani. They've done it to Mike Lindell. They've done it to countless people that are now totally vindicated on the Smartmatic and Dominion area. So the worm is turning here. And now we're going specifically into federal court. And we are saying we want it removed to another federal court out of the bankruptcy. And I'm not a lawyer, so I'm going for best of my knowledge. Sure, people should read it themselves. And we are presenting all of this, and it gets worse. One of the biggest parts of the suit is they would quote things in a filing that were not even real quotes, things I never said, that were quotes out of a newspaper article that were never said. So I would say, I believe children died the few times I cover it, but this person is saying blah, 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 blah. They would cut that off. We've gone through all the videos at incredible expense for over a year and a half. I've got really high-powered, well-known lawyers that have won very, very many of these cases, very famous defamation cases as well, like Ben Brooks, and then other top, fraud lawyers and bankruptcy lawyers like Shelby Jordan. People can look them up, very famous, well-known, respected lawyers. They've never seen anything like this. And so he was just involved in my bankruptcy the last 3 years. And as he saw this, he said, well, we're going to have to take action. And then in the last 3 years, he studied it all. And a whole bunch of craziness happened, fake auctions, all the rest of it. He then deposed him about that, found out what happened behind the scenes. I mean, this is incredible how reckless the bad guys were. And so not all the courts are corrupt. We know that. And so we are moving to get this suit into a full trial, because bankruptcy courts aren't designed to do full trials. And we want a full trial, not on overturning their fake judgments, their kangaroo trials, but on the fact they were kangaroo trials and a conspiracy with the state against a journalist and against a citizen in their own express admissions. So then all the damages and everything they've done to me are then reversed against them. And we have more we're planning. We have a lot we didn't obviously show here in this hand. I'll just leave it at that. But we have very devastating information, ace of spades, multiple ones that are held back. And so this is a big deal. And that's why when listeners support us at thealexjonesstore.com that I don't own, so even though they're able to shut down InfoWars, which is imminent next month, they're trying again. They failed like 5 or 6 times. TheAlexJonesStore.com with the supplements, the T-shirts, the rest of it, that funds the new network, the crew, the reporters, and the legal operation. So this is real war. And by hanging in, by folks praying for us, by the crew putting up with all the insanity that they put up with, being deposed, harassed, all the rest of it, my family as well. They sued my family, and of course, nothing was found there. They accused me in the federal bankruptcy courts and others of having hundreds of millions of hidden money. Turned out everything I said was true. They had me audited by 3 outside high-powered accounting firms made us pay for it out of the estate. Money should be going to them. It never goes to them. It's any money they get, which is in over 10 million bucks so far in my memory now, around that. They then shove into the court to have 3 different huge outside accounting firms, one of them international, private investigators, and then the IRS audited us for a year, intense audit, found that I'd overpaid taxes $4.3 million in the last 5 years previous to that. That went into the estate, so that was money that went into the estate. And then they basically told the U.S. trustee, the Justice Department, to come into the bankruptcy. They can do that if they want, to just basically use it against us. They then sued my parents, drove them to the edge of bankruptcy. They're on the verge of losing their house. They have absolutely basically nothing anymore. They weren't even involved in anything. Didn't matter. They alleged that I had hidden all this money with them. Turned out it was exactly as I said. In fact, I actually owed my dad a little bit of money. And so what they got out of it was a little farm that I never had that time to go to, a tiny lake house I bought like 15 years ago. So from me, like, $3.5 million worth of real estate and nothing else. And they claimed I had hundreds of millions of dollars in the trials. In the Texas trial, we couldn't respond. I was guilty already. They put a guy on for a day and a half who never reviewed our files, never even seen our tax returns. We could not respond. And he said, Mr. Jones is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. He's hiding it all. And the jury we talked to later said, we decided that you hadn't done anything that bad. So we gave him 10% of your wealth. So since you were worth $360 million, the guy said, with no documents, we gave him $45 million. And of course, the best years I've ever had, I made like $6, $7 million. And I had to make that because of all the lawsuits. I had to make more money to pay the lawyers. So in most years of my life, I've made like $1 million, $1.5 million. My goal has never been to make money, but they said all this to create this illusion that I made all this money off them and that I had all this money hidden. And so they put me through this endless gauntlet, and my family through this endless gauntlet. And of course, none of it was ever true. And then they were the ones holding a fake auction and telling the judge it was an auction, and then selling it to themselves basically for nothing, and then saying the Onion owned it and kicking us out of the building. But we went and filed with the federal judge. He said, no, this isn't a real auction. You said it was, but it wasn't. That the Onion went on TV, funded by Bloomberg and Everytown Gun Control Group, and said that they did own it. And of course, before that, that was in November of 2024. That's how long we've held on. In May 31st, before that, the previous U.S. trustee from the Justice Department called up the private security company we've had for like almost 10 years. Just a few armed guys in the building, with handguns. They've got rifles and shotguns in their gun locker. But they called the parent company and said, I am a U.S. federal agent. You are going to go on this Friday night. You're going to shut the building out and kick them all out. And the head of the company said, well, I need a court order or a warrant or something. And they said, no, I am a federal officer. You must do it. And so I talked to them. They said, no, we're not doing it. But I figured they'd try again. So they tried to basically get another security company to come in. Well, we got into court a few weeks later. The judge said, this is incredible. He fired the U.S. trustee. He fired the CRO over the bankruptcy. It was over InfoWars. And so they just brought in another guy. And the judge said, I order a sale. I order a sale. And so they then they announced the time of the auction for November of 2014. And then they didn't have the auction. They said it was an auction to the judge and everybody, and then just basically gave it to the Onion gun control group that was paying for it. They went on TV and said it's ours. The judge saw it and said, this is insane. And then now the judge got tired of it and kicked the property back into state court with the same judge that ran the show trial, Where Gamble. And she appointed a state receiver. And now here we are 6 months later. And he told my lawyers that, the families, the Democratic Party, they don't want a sale. Well, under the law, if I have this $1 billion+ debt to them, okay, I'm still fighting the courts, then by law, they're supposed to sell my assets to pay down part of that debt. But they've said, we are not going to allow that. No public sale. It's going to be given to them again. The Onion man, there's a former head censor guy who would run all the censorship over, just like Brian Stelter did for CNN, the guy that oversaw trying to shut down other people using the power of corporate media. he has done Wired magazine interviews and several others I've seen. We play close up saying, "Oh, I'm still getting InfoWars. There's one thing in my life, it's I want InfoWars." And he said they're going to use our logo, use my image. They're misrepresent who I am with chupacabras and Bigfoots to confuse people. They also said in June of 2024 in court, pulls up with Bloomberg. Patrick McDavid did it yesterday live on air. You just ask AI, Gemini, or ChatGPT. You say, Alex Jones is a special case. The 13th Amendment does not apply to him. In a filing, they said the 13th Amendment against indentured servitude to slavery does not apply to Alex Jones. We own his name. We own his likeness. We own everything he ever said. We own all of his social media. Elon Musk had to countersue and come in and say, because they could take over X, so they got away with that, and said, no, people are on our platform, and as long as they abide by our rules, we own the URL, he owns his name, you can't do that. They had to back off there. So they literally want to own me. Now, Prince signed a 360 agreement with his record company, famously, to own his likeness and name and his music for a huge amount of money. I never did that. My broadcast has always been free to air, First Amendment, with contracts on the site, so TV stations, colleges, access TV, radio stations can always air it without having to call me and get a contract, because they always want one. And it says, we have a non-exclusive license to everyone. Everyone owns my show. Everyone owns the content. You can use it however you want, as long as I reserve the right to use it in full as well. So we've had dozens of those contracts, different ones, as the years go on, that are on Infowars.com. It's well known. So if they're able to do this and take over, they think it's going to be March 7th, but then they always get behind. Now they think by March 14th, the receiver told us a month ago they're going to shut us down. But again, what they're doing is so fraught with problems because it's not even clear in the courts yet they're allowed to do this, because if they don't allow me to sell it to pay them money, then that doesn't pay down the debt, which is what by law I'm supposed to do. So the violations of my rights go on and on and on and on and on. And when my lawyers finally went into the whole record, watched all the videos, had all these other lawyers and experts look at it for over a year and a half, really 3 years, but it takes a year and a half, they couldn't believe it. Every quote in their filings, basically in Texas and Connecticut, that they say is a quote from me is not even a quote from me. And literally it's, I believe the kids died. I'm sorry for the parents, but this is what people are saying they have a right to ask it. And they only entered into evidence 22 minutes of me, supposedly over these years, torturing these parents, peeing on their graves. No one ever peed on their graves. None of this stuff ever happened, but much less I didn't do it. So they said it's the tool to shut everybody else down. They said it's not about money. It's about silencing me. And they even in the courts have said he needs to be taken off the air. He says Hillary Clinton and politicians are involved in the trafficking of children. Maybe during the break they can find that famous short clip where they cut Rogan into it. And they say, so you say Hillary and the Clintons are involved with other politicians, trafficking children. And I go, oh, you mean like Jeffrey Epstein? But there's actually the raw clip of that. And when we post this later to X, we'll definitely cut that in, and we'll play this on my show today as well, that Harrison's doing. Because people need to see that in context. They would use things like that. He says 9/11, there was government prior knowledge. He needs to be taken off the air. He says they're running human trafficking rings. We need him off the air. They're in court. We need him off the air. We need him off the air. He's talking about human trafficking. He's saying CNN lies. He's saying 9/11 was an inside job. Whether I'm right about all that or not, which I've been vindicated, they're saying this isn't about Sandy Hook. Okay? And in Texas and in Connecticut, you can't sue somebody for defamation if you haven't said their name. When I got sued by all these people, I didn't know any of their names but one guy. I knew a few of them later because they've been attacking me in the news. And so they ran these foundations. They raised over $300 million on my name, running Facebook and Twitter ads everywhere saying he's harassing us, help us, help us. Bloomberg Group was behind that. All this has been going on. And then Bloomberg reports on it constantly and doesn't tell you that, oh, our owner, of this company is Rupert Murdoch. In the past, whenever a media was talking about some company that they're invested in or they're part of or their parent company, they have to tell you. So this is their model. They've said it on CNN. They've said it on MSNBC. We could take down Alex Jones. We could take down everybody. The plaintiff's lawyers have probably said, no exaggeration, 30, 40 times that I've seen that we want him off the air. That's why we did this. And so that is a conspiracy against If they've got this ready, let's play the short clip. We should find the raw clip of this. And also Rob Dew and the Greenman, a great job putting together compilations of them saying, we want Alex off the air. This isn't about money. The longer ones are 10 minutes long of them just saying it. But maybe later in the show, we can just do a 3-minute, a 4-minute, a 5-minute. They got dozens of them in the computer right there, just to see them say it over and over again. So this is what's called an open conspiracy against someone's rights. And if proven in court civilly, it then kicks into criminal. And this is what Todd Blanche killed that Ed Martin was investigating, because we have open and shut case of the FBI in Connecticut saying they went and created it with their FBI agent who became a plaintiff himself, won $130 million from me. I never said his name. None of the crew ever said his name. We never showed his picture. A local reporter once asked if he was real, called his office, and for his local blog wrote about him. They said in the suit, I was a co-conspirator with a guy I didn't know, had never met, to put me in the state for the suit. Then once they got me in trial, they dropped that guy. I first met him during the show trial in Connecticut, where he explained it all to me. And I met the guy, out the hallway. So that's how this whole thing works. You have the FBI sitting their chief counsel, their head lawyer, he admitted, he bragged about on the stand, hiding in plain view, with the Koskov law firm, and then go recruit these families that had their foundations that were bringing in a few million a year. They escalate to 18, 20 something million, 30 million a year once they attach themselves to my name, while claiming I'm making money off of them, while claiming I'm sending people to attack their houses, pee on their children's graves. Then we asked them on the stand, even the show trial, okay, who peed on your graves? Who came to your house? Well, I wasn't there. I didn't see it. Well, who told you? I don't know. This is all in the show trials, but they had to have a few questions so it would look real for the court TV and the YouTube. And remember, in both show trials, they were set a month apart, right before the midterms in 2022. I don't know how long this is going on. Just the trials were back then. Even in the show trials, they killed the YouTube comments, because the first few days, everybody's like 50-50, this guy's a scumbag. But once they saw that I couldn't talk, I couldn't defend, once they saw all this, then they said, oh my God, 99% of the comments were against them, so they killed the feeds. And she was already killing the feed when she wanted to say something really out of control. She would kill the feed herself, Judge Bellis in Texas. But then she totally killed the feed because they didn't want people to see what's happening. Then it was all produced by HBO. She's putting on makeup. It looked like they had scripts on their desk. She later walked the red carpet when the movie came out 2 years later at South by Southwest as the main feature movie. She walked the red carpet and was praised with flash bulbs and everything, because this was a big production that I was ordered under penalty of contempt of court and arrest if I didn't go to. But then they would read to me, both judges, the same list of things. It's all coordinated. 20 different things I wasn't allowed to say. It was actually 22. I couldn't say I was innocent. I couldn't say that I didn't have any money and was in bankruptcy. I couldn't say I had never said the names of these people. Couldn't explain I didn't make money off of them. Couldn't provide any details because I was already found guilty. So this was absolutely the Truman Show for real. And now we filed this not to overturn their judgments, none of that. No. To go and show that I've had major civil rights violations and that I get damages on everything they've done to me. And this is just the beginning. As long as people support us at thealexjonesstore.com, and we're going to be launching Major Legal Defense Fund and Offense Fund soon as well. As long as we're supported, we're going to keep fighting, and we have turned the tide against these people. Even the Third Court of Appeals couldn't believe it. In Texas, the Supreme Court, if they don't overturn it, is set to. Judge Bellis did things like 2 weeks after the Texas show trial to try to bust the caps, $3.5 million. She got a thing from the jury for 45. She said, I'm going to find you guilty, civilly liable for elder abuse because the man is over 63 now. And she said, I don't care if the Supreme Court and the legislature say this is illegal. She said this. She said, I am overriding it. Well, she can't override it. And now, and people say, why hasn't this gotten to court yet? They kept saying they were going to settle for something more reasonable, even though I don't owe it. It's a fraud. I wanted to just stop this and move on, but they want to bring me down, so they never did. They got up for the Third Court of Appeals and you basically admitted that yeah, she can't do this, but she did. He's a bad guy. And all three of the women on the court were just like, are you joking?
Alex, stay put. I'm gonna get you back on here in just a second. We'll have this quick commercial break and come right back to you to continue to this. Folks, don't go anywhere. He's got more allegations going to map out for you in just a second.
Welcome back. Ladies and gentlemen, this
You're
is
listening to the Alex Jones Show.
The Alex Jones Show. So I'm too excited. I got too excited. Cutting off the liner there. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to The Alex Jones Show. I'm your host, Harrison Smith. Alex is, of course, on mission in Florida today. Although we are hearing from him, we'll go back to his video in just a second. Thinking about it during the break, I feel like we don't do what we've been through justice. The saga we've been through has been this insane battle. And I know because people are like, oh, weren't you supposed to be shut down? I keep hearing you're shut. Even my dad asked me a couple days ago, he's like, what's the latest? I'm like, it's supposed to be next month. And he just laughs. He's like, oh, another month, huh? It's like, yeah, I know. Trust me, I know. Trust me, if you are sick of hearing about it, imagine how we feel. But then I feel like it gets lost in the mix. It's just like this endless back and forth. In reality, what's happening is that there are these multi-million-dollar lawyers filing lawsuits. I mean, this is modern war. There's the attack, there's the counterattack, there's the siege, the ambush. Like, it's all happening in courtrooms, behind closed doors, but it is the most like thrilling drama you've ever seen. And the way that they have abused us is like beyond description. I mean, you can hear it in the story that Alex is telling, and he continues here in just a second. But when you actually understand and like fully comprehend, it just is, you can just keep peeling back layers and layers and layers of the corruption. I mean, every of this thing has been fraught with, in my opinion, just blatant corruption, malfeasance, and misattribution of laws. It's just, all of it has been ridiculously absurd. The story is at Infowars.com. Alex Jones files second amended counterclaim in bankruptcy court, alleging constitutional violations in Sandy Hook defamation judgment. So this has not been, a series of us just being, battered around endlessly. This has been attack and counterattack. It's been, we've received a blow, and then we've given them one back just as hard. And the only reason we've been able to do this is because of your help, because of your support at thealexjonesstore.com, because you spread the news, because you spread the links, because you support us, and make sure to follow us, because it really is coming down to the end here. We really are in the final innings of this game of law that we're engaged in. So make sure to be following us on X, especially at Real Alex Jones, at Infowars, at AJN Live. I'm at Harrison H. Smith, at Brianna Morello, at War Room Show. There's lots of ways to follow us, but make sure you are, because no matter what happens here, the mission continues in a new form, and even better form, as long as you support us at thealexjonesstore.com. We make it so easy for you to do so. Right now, it is 52% off site-wide. Everything on the site is 52% off. This sale ends soon, so don't wait. Of course, your support is what keeps us on the air, and this is the final week to win both of the incredible cars that we are offering, the Ford Mustang Shelby GT500 and the Ford F250 diesel. Normally, you're entered to win one or the other of these. This week, it's a crossover week, so every dollar you spend gets 100 times the entries to win both of these cars and $20,000 in cash. So go today, thealexjonesstore.com. Keep us on the air in the fight and actually winning against the unbelievably gigantic network of well-funded lawyers that have been trying to bring us down for the last damn near a decade at this point. But we've survived, we've thrived, we continue to fight because of your support. TheAlexJonesStore.com. We'll go to the last part of Alex Jones explaining the countersuit, the counterclaim, and then when we get back on the other side, I'm going to give it some greater context and explain that even the way Alex Jones is laying it out, He's having to cover so much stuff. Every one of these data points you could zoom into and expand, and it is rife with corruption beyond your wildest dreams. It's crazy. Let's go back to Alex Jones. On the other side, I'll show you some more context that really tells you how absurd this whole situation has been. Without any further ado, here's Alex Jones.
One of the things you've been talking about on your show is your allegation that government officials are aiding in pedophilia, child trafficking, and the grooming of children, right?
What do you mean, like what Jeffrey Epstein did with the Clintons?
Obviously, that's not going to make any fans of these corrupt courts when you call him out like that. Alex Jones is still with us because I want him to detail his latest filing in court. He is claiming civil rights violations. And as many of you guys know, we've been following this for years now. I mean, what happened to him is unprecedented, and we need to be able to speak out on all of this. And Alex, we were just talking before the break, and prior to all of this, you had mentioned your deposition that you were looking to get Hillary Clinton to give her deposition, and that was shot down. Can you detail that a little bit? Because I know it's also mentioned in this new lawsuit that you've just filed, and I think for those who have missed that, that's the key part to a lot of this.
Yes, I was defaulted for three things, and I mentioned them earlier. We'll go over the other two. Mm-hmm. I was defaulted for filing and asking the court for permission to depose Hillary because in our deposition of the Sandy Hook Foundation people, they admitted to meeting with Hillary and it appeared coordinating with her, and we knew that she'd been involved at the beginning, tying me to Sandy Hook and running TV ads against Trump with it. So that was very important for us to show this was political then, as we thought it was. Now we know it was. And so that's the first default. If you get three strikes, that's it. Normally it's fleeing the country, you're getting caught paying off a judge, or putting in false evidence, knowingly lying. Defaults are called death penalty sanctions. They're extremely rare until now. Now they're using them against everybody. Remember, Trump said he was innocent in the E. Jean Carroll case. He's not allowed to say he's innocent. So what, 7 million the first time, 70-something million or whatever it was the next? Well, you're supposed to be able to say you're innocent. So this is the weaponization that they do. And they're all over the news constantly. People like Piers Morgan. Oh, Jones didn't show up for court. Jones didn't show up for depositions. Jones didn't give any stuff over. No, I did. And I was innocent. So they had to default me just like Mike Lindell. They've done in his cases, as we showed on screen earlier. Judges find you guilty now that they have show trials. And that is a conspiracy against rights when a judge works with the FBI and works for the law firm that works for the FBI to hand the control of the court over to them and let HBO come in and produce everything and then keep me under those rules so I couldn't defend myself. I mean, again, in the Texas case, a day and a half of testimony about my finances with no evidence, and I couldn't respond. Where they go, he's got $360 million, he made it off them, and I'm sitting there at that point with negative money in the bank and never made a dime off of them. So that's a conspiracy against rights. That's what's been done. Serious lawfare, major abusive process. And abusive process isn't a sexy name, but it's very powerful. And so this stuff, once proven civilly, has major teeth to it criminally, but we know the Justice Department is toothless at the best, so that won't happen. But civilly, this gets in front of a real judge. They've got real problems on their hands, so we're fighting back. We've been fighting. No one has held out this long against the deep state other than Trump. And so it's been the listeners and the viewers' prayers, word of mouth, and support of us. So we're live right now. I'm going to play this interview at the start of my show at 11 a.m. today. Harrison's doing it. Mm-hmm. I'm out here in Florida, not vacationing, doing a lot of work behind the scenes, doing some big podcasts like Patrick Bet David. That was really powerful yesterday. I covered this issue in depth for probably about 45 minutes on there. The 2+ hour podcast. People want more details. And a lot of those posts are Real Hawk Shows on X. But follow us at Real Hawk Shows on X. Follow us at the Backup Network at AJN Live. Follow Brianna Morello, follow Harrison, follow all the rest of the great team, because there's a very good chance we're going to be shut down in less than a month. And that just ups the civil rights violations. So you were asking, what damages am I seeking at least during the break you asked me, whatever damages I have received, shutting down our companies, the $25 million we've spent fighting them for the last 6-7 years, all of what's happened to my parents, if they're able to shut down InfoWars, the incalculable cost of all of that. And there's a lot more they've done that I've been asked not to say that we're, keeping right here on the DL about what they've done and how they've done this. But this has been very sinister, but also very naked in all of it. I know you've got a big guest coming up, so we won't play the compilation here. But when we post this to X in about the next hour, we're going to put a compilation of them saying, we want him off air. Our goal is not money. We want to shut him down, to set the precedent to shut them all down. And now they've indeed been doing that. So they're coming for everybody. They're trying to get through me, as Trump says, to get to you, ladies and gentlemen. And that's why this is such a big deal, and why I appreciate the viewers and listeners standing with us. Without you, we couldn't have done any of this. Without your prayer, I want to thank God. I want to thank the Holy Spirit for leading, guiding, and directing us. I want to thank the crew who have gone through, no raises for years and years and years and years and years, and almost no bonuses with all the inflation, and many of them being deposed and harassed and lied about. The crew have been warriors, and they get as much credit as I get, but the listeners and viewers get the lion's share of the credit. Thank you, because I want to fight. I'm a fighter. I never give up. I mean, I like fighting tyrants. This is what I was built for, but I can't do it. A warrior can't take the field unless the people are behind him, that are in the factories, producing the munitions, producing the energy, producing the tanks, the weapons, the aircraft, the missiles. And that's what this is in the info war. All of this victory is you. The answer to 1984 is 1776. And from the bottom of my heart, I salute all the viewers and listeners of the info war. Even if they shut us down, the info war is generic, belongs to the people of the world. The info war just gets stronger, and we continue on with the Alex Jones network that's funded by our main sponsor that owns it, thealexjonesstore.com, the great folks at Bigley. The sale ends, by the way, Monday. Over 50% off on these two bundles of Methylene Blue, Shilajit, Irish Sea Moss, Atomic Defense. Over 50% off, biggest sale of the year, 52% off. TheAlexJonesStore.com, the widest selection of Patriot apparel. We're funded by you, not by Qatar, not by Israel, not by the Democrats, not by the Republicans, not by billionaires, but viewers and listeners like you. And I just appreciate the courage and the incredible team we've got. Whether InfoWars survives or whether it gets shut down, we'll know soon. And then under the new ownership, regardless, we plan to go at least 19 hours a day live. They're building new studios right now. We have a smaller backup studio that does a great job. And we're going to be on the air. I'm going to be on the air from 5 a.m. to midnight as soon as possible. And we'll have a lot of shows that aren't as exhausting, 3 hours. We'll have a lot of shows that, go to an hour. We'll have a late night show that's like 2 hours. And we'll have some heavy hitters that want to do 2-3 hours. It's kind of the model you've seen with the War Room that was our original model that we never got fully launched. We invented, basically. We're going to bring back my original vision that is the current dominant system right now, and we're going to continue to trailblaze because of the backing of viewers and listeners like you. You are the Paul Reveres. You are the Patriots. Please pray for this lawsuit. Please read the lawsuit. It's at Real Alex Jones right now, and Brianna Morello's X. Follow her because, again, you are the amplifiers. Get this out. This affects everybody. The ball is now in your court, viewers and listeners. God bless you, and again, I thank you.
Alex, thank you for joining us. And folks at home right now, I did post that link. You could view the latest filing right now up on X. It is available for you to click on and to see for yourself. It's about 60 pages long, but it's an easy read. And so give that a look. I mean, he's citing several different constitutional rights that he had violated in all of this. And it's very important for folks at home to understand what Alex has gone through. And I know a lot of people reach out to me and they say quite often, Alex always says that InfoWars is going to be shut down. He's been saying this for a while now, and it's still not shut down. But the reason why it's not shut down yet is because of people like you at home. When you guys go out there, when you guys make a purchase over at thealexjonesstore.com, you guys are helping us out significantly. And you've supported us in other ways as well. And that's the reason why this legal battle is still ongoing. Again, so many people are cowards in all of this. They didn't want to speak out on Alex's behalf. But you, the audience, you've been consistent in all of this, continue to help Alex and fight. And we're very grateful for that. I know our control room is, our staff is, our team is, all of us are. So, folks, when you go on over thealexjonesstore.com, you're helping us with our next operation. But Alex is in this fight, and he is dedicated to this fight. And although these courts might be a bunch of cowards, I think, in my own opinion, that the Supreme Court is a coward as well for not hearing this argument. Because the most important argument to hear. You guys at home keep us up and going. We're very grateful for that.
I ask that with your verdict, you not only take Alex Jones' platform that he talks about away. I ask that you make certain he can't rebuild the platform. That's what matters. Take him out of this discourse, of this misinformation, of this peddling of lies, and make sure he can't do it again. That is punishment. That is deterrence.
But somewhere out there right now is another family getting their kids ready for school, fixing their lunches, going to work, thinking about their kid. And there's going to be a day when that child doesn't come home from school. And we know it, and it's sad, and that's reality. And the question is going to be, where is Alex Jones when that happens? Is he in the studio? Getting ready to pounce? Or will you stop him? That's going to be in your hands. And when we get all done with all the evidence, we're going to come back and we're going to ask you to stop. Because that's what justice is in this case.
I hope that we never see someone like him again. I hope that with your verdict, he can go away. Alex Jones is patient zero for our society's inability to speak without lies. I believe it. He is patient zero for alternative facts.
Yeah, there's going to be a resolution made under what these claims are valued at. And that's also going to have to take into account what the Lafferty claims are valued at, and the Posner claims are valued at, and the Fontaine claims are valued at. And that is why I've been saying that what this is heading towards is there's going to be a large set of plaintiffs who are going to be dividing up the corpse of InfoWars in the bankruptcy estate. And over the course of that process, that could get very, very dangerous for Mr. Jones, because there's going to be a new level of financial scrutiny. And if, you know, some lawyer like me can basically find out that he's hiding the keys to the candy store, pull it out in front of him on the stand, I can only imagine what federal receivers are going to do. So yeah, it's going to get interesting from here on out. It's going to get really interesting, that's for sure. It's already super interesting, but like we say, it's the it's the end of the beginning, and boy, are these clients happy about it. There was certainly a message sent out of this courthouse today, that's for sure.
But we will be at it as long as it takes. And if you're out there right now and you're one of Alex Jones's audience members and you're considering giving him money, I just want you to know that based on the jury's verdict today, it's not a very good bet. And to go back to what Robbie Parker said, all Alex Jones does is take from you, exploit you, lie to you, feed your fears and your anxieties and your mistrust. And the only person that benefits in that equation is him. Well, that stops. That's stopping today, thanks to the courage of these families. Thank you very much.
And here we are 7 years later. You'll notice the name on the marquee here. You'll notice the logo behind us. It seems like maybe the case wasn't as cut and dry as they wanted to present it as. No, we've not just survived, but continued to thrive because we have this little secret. We have a secret weapon. It's called the truth, and it's actually the most powerful thing you could possibly have on your side when you're engaged in a info war, as we are. So they can have all the money. They can have the big, gigantic law firms with the billions of dollars and the infinite man hours to spend. They can have judges or other authorities in their pockets. At the end of the day, they don't have the truth, and so what they're doing is very, very difficult to achieve. And we've explained over and over how they probably could have shut us down years ago if they had just not tried to always get a little bit more. And again, I'm just speaking as an individual with absolutely no legal expertise here, so maybe I shouldn't run my mouth too much, but it's fine because we've already explained this a lot. I've got a couple videos here that I want to go to that are of me, but a while ago, because I've run through this already. A couple things I want to explain. The first is the way that we were defaulted. Our judgment was a default judgment, and what exactly that means and why we were given a default judgment. I put this video together in October of last year explaining, with the help of AI, why we were given a default judgment, just so you can see how absurd this decision was. Let's watch. According to Grok, is why we received a default judgment. We're not allowed to defend ourselves. Jones was ordered in 2019 and 2020 to produce financial records, web analytics like Google Analytics, and marketing data showing how InfoWars profited from Sandy Hook content. They wanted us to provide them evidence that we were guilty. By mid-2021, he turned over only sanitized or partial records, e.g. fragmented sales figures with no context about Sandy Hook-related revenue. Well, we don't have context about Sandy Hook-related revenue. We talk about all sorts of things. Our callers call in and bring something up. People go to the store sometimes. They don't go to the store other times. It just has no bearing on what we cover, how we cover it. For instance, in a June 2021 hearing, they argued he hadn't disclosed contacts or communications with advertisers tied to Sandy Hook broadcasts. What the hell does that mean? We haven't disclosed contacts with advertisers about Sandy Hook. We don't have advertisers. We don't have any contacts with advertisers. We have the Alex Jones store. Back then, we had the InfoWars store. We had maybe a gold person or whatever, but again, they're asking for something that doesn't exist. And then they're giving us a default judgment when we don't provide the records that don't exist. We got the crew that produces the show. I gather all the news. We just, it's all free form. It's all spur of the moment, edge of the seat. I mean, that's how we do things. There's no logins doing things that way. Then they go in and say, well, where's your internal communications where you talk about how covering Sandy Hook gets you more money? What? It doesn't exist. Oh, you're withholding that, are you? Default judgment. We own your life now. That's literally what happened, all right? Either give us things that prove you're guilty or we will declare you're guilty. Tip of the iceberg, folks. It really is the tip of the... I'm telling you, every single instance of any proceeding with this case is just filled, replete with the most insane decisions you've ever seen. Totally inexplicable. But actually, it's not. Actually, I take that back. It is explicable. It's very explicable. I can explain it perfectly. Let's go to the next one featuring me. This is the timing. The timing of this was extremely curious, and I discovered this by going back into some of the Google archives. When did they start first talking about Alex Jones in relation to Sandy Hook? It happened to be 1 week after Donald Trump won the election. Let's watch. Go to Google, search Alex Jones, Sandy Hook, go to the news tab, go to custom date from January 1st, 2013, so that would have been 2 weeks after Sandy Hook occurred, to January 1st, 2016, and I searched Alex Jones, Sandy Hook. And what you'll find, there's just nothing. There's not a single headline or a single story about Alex Jones being related to Sandy Hook. Not a single one. But the interesting thing is, change the parameters from January 1st, 2016 to January 1st, 2020, suddenly there's thousands. And it just goes on and on and on. The first story relating Alex Jones to Sandy Hook was literally 1 week after the election in 2016. Sandy Hook truther Alex Jones says he got a nice thank you call from the president-elect. And then it was 1 day after that, daughter of Sandy Hook victim demands Donald Trump disown Alex Jones. I want to impress upon you what's actually behind this whole thing. And they decided that a good attack vector on Donald Trump was to associate Alex Jones with Donald Trump and Alex Jones with Sandy Hook. For years and years, that was never a thing. It's all absurd, but that's just my personal view. So there you go. Again, totally unrelated. No stories relating Alex Jones to Sandy Hook until 1 week after Donald Trump gets elected. Suddenly, this becomes a major push in the mainstream media. And you don't have to take my word for it. They called experts during the trial that testified as to the efficacy of Alex Jones in the political sphere. You tell me what this has to do with harassment of Sandy Hook victims. Absolutely nothing, because this is what the trial was actually about. Let's go to the disinformation expert that testified in the Connecticut trial.
It is difficult to overstate Alex Jones's role in spreading anti-government conspiracy theories. In 2011, a Rolling Stone article stated that Jones draws a bigger audience online than Rush Limbaugh and Glenn Beck combined. In 2016, the Washington Post reported that Jones claimed 5 million daily listeners. His YouTube channel, the Alex Jones channel, has 56 videos with more than 1 million views each. I was about to read the citation. That's the end of the quote.
In the study, when it says that it's difficult to overstate Alex Jones' role in spreading anti-government conspiracy theories, is that consistent with your research and work in this case?
Yes, it is.
Can you explain why?
Yes. When scholars are looking at different producers of media online, I mean, there's a range of factors that we look at, but I would say that two of the most important ones are analyzing the content itself. So what is this person saying? What ideas are they promoting? And another equally important aspect is what is the size of their audience, or even beyond their core audience, what's the size of their reach? And in terms of combining the types of disinformation that Alex Jones promotes and the size and scale of his audience, I can't think of another person working in media who is comparable to him. He's unparalleled in terms of
Unparalleled, and that's what it was really all about. It was about our political influence and trying to stop that. How'd that go for you? Did that work very well, or do we have greater influence than ever? Because again, we have the truth on our side. It's an impenetrable shield for these people. It's incredible. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Alex Jones Show. Second hour is on. I'm your host, Harrison Smith. Normally, of course, I host The War Room, which you can watch each and every weekday, 3 to 6 p.m. here on InfoWars. And like I was saying at the beginning of the show, InfoWars has grown and expanded continuously since I first started working here 9 years ago to the day. We have built new studios, built new buildings, and of course survived the most outrageous attacks against us. And you gotta, like, I think everybody who's helped us in this, you should all marinate on that. You should all enjoy this, because this is the victory that you should be enjoying vicariously through us. That at every turn, you know these people. You know the scumbags in Washington, D.C., the lawyers, the politicians that want us to just shut the hell up and they can't figure out how to make us. You know that there have been like 3 or 4 times where they were popping the champagne bottle and cheersing each other and saying, that's it for InfoWars. They're going down now. We don't have to worry about them anymore. It had to have been, at least they had to have, honestly, they probably thought they took us down in 2018. In 2018, when they took us off of Twitter and Facebook and Spotify and YouTube all at once. I mean, YouTube was our main platform. We dominated YouTube. We were bigger and better than any other channel, including channels that are like given so much corporate and institutional support. I mean, if you buy a little device like a Roku or something, you're going to have like the Young Turks loaded in and all these other leftist, channels. Meanwhile, we're being algorithmically crushed and still beating them continuously. And so you have to imagine on that day in 2028, when they somehow conspired to get every big tech company on the planet to simultaneously kick us off of every platform we are on, you must think they were walking around going, we did it, that's it, he's gone. The menace is over. Only like, I don't know, The Undertaker or something, we sit back up.
Right into it. I mean, it's amazing. I'm on the air the other day, and I'm hearing. I watched the Super Bowl halftime show. I watched Bad Bunny, and I could have waited until my political show Wednesday night. On Sirius XM POTUS Radio Channel 124, which comes on from 6 to 8 p.m., by the way, Eastern Standard Time. I could have waited from them, but I didn't feel like waiting. Because when bullshit is out there, you have to highlight it, and you have to point it out at least some of the times, at least when you feel like it. And by the way, as I keep reminding y'all, my mouth is getting a little bit better. I'm getting my energy back. You just don't understand what's about to come y'all way in the months to come. Oh, what I've been through these last months, starting from October. I just can't wait because I'm scared of the kind of stuff that I'm going to say. I'm scared. I've got my publicist and communications director next to me. I got my producers looking at me. I got one of my producers who's just a veteran in the business, my man Rashawn, that no matter how cool he tries to be, he's in panic mode most of the time because he knows I'm ready to cuss people out. But I'm not going to do that. I'm simply going to point out dare I say, inconsistencies are kind of things that are coming out of people's mouths and putting on their websites and all of this other stuff. So, Bad Bunny performs on Super Bowl Sunday. And when he performs on Super Bowl Sunday, he speaks, he performs, I said on numerous occasions, it was a damn good performance, okay? And because I said the words that, you know what, President Donald Trump had a point when he talked about, some of it could have been in English, that would have been nice. All of a sudden, the world just comes to an end. And everybody's got to sit up there and try to make a big deal out of it without seeing the big picture. Yet again, there's a big picture here. Trump's playing chess and other people are playing checkers. You don't understand how slick his ass is trying to be. There's a purpose and a method to his madness. You got to keep up with him. And I'm keeping up with him because I'm watching what he's doing with his slick self. And he ain't going to get away with it, but I see with some people, he will, because you're getting caught up in the okie doke and just soaked in and brought in instead of seeing the big picture and what's going on. For example, Bad Bunny performs. They're talking about Turning Point USA, which wanted to have their own Super Bowl halftime celebration with Kid Rock and the crew. And they had 800,000 people live and drew in anywhere from 6 to 8 million people. But you don't mention the fact that Bad Bunny had 135 million people watching, right? That from a cultural perspective, for the Hispanic and the Latino community, the brother was incredibly impactful. By the way, come on, star. I mean, the brother did that. I got to go learn my Spanish, listen, because the music was fly. I said this stuff, but people forgot that, okay? And they're forgetting the fact that it was as culturally impactful as Kendrick Lamar was last year, when he showed up at halftime for Super Bowl Sunday and did his thing. It wasn't all about him being not like us and dissing Drake. It wasn't all about that. That brother had a load of music on stage with SZA, which we know now because of all the Grammys he took home. But I digress. Getting back to Bad Bunny and the Super Bowl performance, I want you to take a look at what Trump had to say. As president of the United States, here's what came out of this man's mouth. The Super Bowl halftime show was absolutely terrible. One of the worst ever. It makes no sense, is an affront to the greatness of America, and doesn't represent our standards of success, creativity, or excellence. Nobody understands a word this guy is saying. And the dancing is disgusting, especially for young children that are watching from throughout the USA and all over the world. This quote-unquote show is just a quote-unquote slap in the face to our country, which is setting new standards and records every single day, including the best stock market and 401ks in history. There is nothing inspirational about this mess of a halftime show, and watch. It will get great reviews from the fake news media because they haven't got a clue of what is going on in the real world. And by the way, the NFL should immediately replace its ridiculous new kickoff rule. Make America great again. President Donald J. Trump. That was what he said. Before I get into reminding y'all what the hell I said and my disgust over having to reiterate my points just because people try to successfully gain a dollar by lying and taking what I say out of context, before I do all of that, I'm going to show you what ticked me off. Could you put up, Griff? Could you put up on the screen, please? Look at this picture right here. Now, who was this from again? Big Ballers? Baller Alert? Baller Alert. First of all, if you're going to put up a picture about me, that was with me about 25 pounds heavier. Could you do that? I mean, you're going to put up that. And what you do, you put the black face up, right? You damn near airbrush me and trying to make me look a bit close to Michael Jackson. Okay? On top of it all, you got Megyn Kelly, Jesse Waters, and Kid Rock behind me. Bad Bunny's Super Bowl performance had them this mad. So you're lumping me in with them. I respect all of them. I don't know anything about Kid Rock. I find Megyn Kelly to be an outstanding journalist and commentator, and I think Jesse Waters does a damn good job on Fox News, but I'm not a right-winger. Let's get that out the way. I'm a registered independent, once again reminding y'all, who's voted Democratic in every election excluding Governor Chris Christie in New Jersey. So let's just get that out the way to see this fabrication that they put out there. That wasn't the only thing they put out there. What's the next one, Griff? Show me this one. Fox News. Stephen A. Smith says it would have been nice if Bad Bunny performed in English. Now, I can't knock Fox News for this. You know why I can't knock them? Because the article quoted everything that I said. But the headline is the draw. And me being in this business, I have to understand and appreciate the fact that even though it didn't appropriately contextualize my comment, the fact of the matter is, in the news business, you're going to put, when it comes to the copy editors, they're going to put what works for the copy headlines, for the headlines, to draw in the most viewers. And that clearly is going to work, okay? But for those of you who missed what I had to say, what I said on my Sirius XM Stephen A. Smith show on Mad Dog Sports Radio every weekday from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Monday, hours after the Super Bowl, in case you missed it. In case you missed it. Here it is again. If most people don't understand the lyrics because you're speaking it in what they deem to be a foreign language, that is a legitimate point that the president made. That part. That doesn't mean they had a problem with it. I'm just saying his statement that most people didn't understand anything he was saying. There's millions upon millions of Americans that would have wanted to hear something in English other than Lady Gaga. That is true. And me personally, been nice to see J-Lo out there. Been nice to see Shakira out there. Been nice to see a few people celebrating their Hispanic heritage, no doubt. But it also would have been nice if some of the songs were in English. That's all. The president is speaking on behalf, or was speaking on behalf of tens of millions of Americans who are like, I didn't understand a word he was saying because I don't know Spanish. That is a valid point. And I still say it's a valid point. I'm still telling you it's a valid point. But that didn't mean, I also said I liked the show a lot. I thought Bad Bunny did a hell of a job. I thought the vibe was off the chain. And let me tell you something right now. You couldn't stop dancing to that music. The brother he put on a party. I agreed with J.J. Watt, former NFL star, future Hall of Famer for the Houston Texans, when he said, hey. Did I understand the word he was saying? No. Was the vibe live? Yes, it was. Hell yes, it was. That's what I'm saying. Let me tell you something right now. Bad Bunny didn't have you upset at Bad Bunny because of his performance on Super Bowl Sunday that was viewed by more than 135 million people. What he had you doing was mad if you didn't know Spanish. Because you was like, damn, this music is live. It's a party. It feels good. Damn it, why didn't I stay in Spanish class? Dr. Brooks Shaw at Winston-Salem State, God rest his soul, I apologize for not dedicating myself to learning more Spanish. Juvie, my bodyguard, my big brother, I apologize. Damn it, you've been working with me for 20 years. I should know more Spanish than I know. Damn it. More than 57 million people in the United States of America speak Spanish. The Hispanic population in the United States of America is now the dominant minority. Whether the number is 18%, 21%, 25%, U.S. Census Bureau is projecting by the year 2030, it would make up over 35 to 40% of the American population. Damn it, I should have learned more. I'm going to go back and take some damn Spanish lessons. Let me tell you something right now. Ain't nobody hating on Bad Bunny. I loved it. Loved it. And the thing about Baller Alert and all of this other stuff, how many rap artists do I need to name where half the time I can't understand a damn thing they say? Because they speaking so fast and they dropping lyrics. Don't get me started with reggae. Okay? Mr. Lava Lava. I mean, what do you want me to say? You think I understand everything Shabba said, Shabba ranks? But I loved it. It was no crime. All I was trying to say is that there's a couple of songs up in there. It would have been nice if some English was sprinkled up in there. That's all. Just a preference. But I ain't hating. I loved it. And me mentioning Shakira and J-Lo to the heterosexual brothers everywhere. Did I say something wrong by saying it would have been nice to see them? Are we going to sit here and say that I was wrong? Have you seen J-Lo in her 50s? Have you seen Shakira? Are you kidding me? Really? Baller alert, I thought y'all were ballers. Who wouldn't mind seeing J-Lo and Shakira? How is that a problem? I liked listening to Bad Bunny, but when it came to something I wanted to see, forgive me if my proclivity would lean in that direction. As opposed to him. That's just a preference. No harm, no foul. Everybody was dancing. Married couple on the stage, getting married. I mean, it's cool. It's beautiful. Everybody got their flavor. Everybody got their thing. But make no mistake, this ain't Donald Trump. This ain't the right lamenting the fact that an American citizen who was born in Puerto Rico, since Puerto Rico is a part of the United States, was performing in Spanish. Nothing but love for him. I'm going to go buy his music and use that to learn more Spanish. What are you talking about? I'll tell you what we're talking about. We're talking about paying attention to the shit Trump wants us to pay attention to so we can ignore other things. We can ignore how he wants to eradicate our connection and America's connection to black culture. How he wants to descend from being an apologist, emanating out of white America for the iniquities that were exacted against black people everywhere for centuries, and he don't want that to be a part, not just of our vernacular, but about studies, about our education moving forward. Because guess what? If you take it out of schools and you take it out of libraries and you wipe it away from the internet, if you could pull it off, then black folks that are born into this world now and moving forward won't know anything about their history. This is the same man that decides that while he's targeting liberals who are governors for a White House-related event associated with the National Governors Association, he excluded some Democratic governors, mainly Maryland Governor Wes Moore, who happens to be the only black governor in the United States of America, who clearly has been critical of the president. He also uninvited Colorado Governor Jared Polis as well, to be fair. And for those of you who may not know, the dinner is a long-standing tradition meant to bring governors of both parties together with the president at the White House, which is why Governor Wes Moore flagged the significance of being the only black governor and said he can't ignore the added weight of being singled out for exclusion. You see, when you look at this president, understand what's transpiring before our very eyes. We've got representatives losing in the state of Texas from his party to Democrats. We've got somebody like Representative Jasmine Crockett gaining traction to the point where her competitor, he's got $4 million reportedly, more than $4 million more than her in his coffers to campaign against her. She needs help, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here to tell you something. That same Jasmine Crockett who was sensitive and critical towards me, I am sitting here on this show and telling you, let's make sure we get some money into her campaign so we can have a fair fight. And she could go out there and she can campaign to position herself for the Democratic nomination for a U.S. Senate seat, one of only 2 in the state of Texas. So she could go from representing 766,000 people in the state of Texas to representing over 31 million. I am here telling you, I want her to get just as much money as James Tellerico, her competition, for the Democratic nomination for the Senate seat in the state of Texas, so we can have a fair fight. He can't win by out-campaigning her and being able to disseminate his message to more people because he's got more dollars so he can generate more buzz by getting commercials and sponsors and all of that other stuff. Nah. You that dude that should represent the Democratic Party in the state of Texas instead of Jasmine Crockett, then guess what? The money should be fair and equitable, equal. Let's support Jasmine Crockett on that point. Let's make sure that whether she wins or lose, we're able to sit back and say, it's a fair fight. Let's make sure of that. Back to Trump. It's clear what he's doing. Ladies and gentlemen, this whole video regarding depicting Barack Obama and Michelle Obama as apes. Let's understand how this went down. Trump's Truth Social account, Thursday night at approximately 11:44 p.m., Trump's Truth Social account posted a minute-long meme-style video focused largely on false 2020 election fraud claims. Near the end, it included AI-edited primate imagery with Barack and Michelle Obama's faces superimposed, paired with, quote, "the lion sleeps tonight," end quote. That Friday morning, just hours later, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt initially defended the backlash as fake outrage, framing it as an internet meme portraying Trump as king of the jungle and Democrats as characters from The Lion King. That same day, presumably after a call from Senator Tim Scott, Republican, black Republican, out of the state of South Carolina, I'm still not sure whether Trump called him or he called Trump. But either way you slice it, they spoke, and subsequently the post was deleted roughly 12 hours after appearing. The White House said a staffer erroneously posted it. Tim Scott said he hoped it was fake because it's the most racist thing he has seen come out of this White House. Same day, later that day, after explanation, Trump told reporters he didn't watch the entire clip. Griff, do we have Trump speaking and reacting after the post was removed?
Who sent it, and are you going to fire them?
No, I looked at it, I saw it, and I just looked at the first part. It was about voter fraud in someplace, Georgia. There was a lot of voter fraud, 2020 voter fraud, and I didn't see the whole thing. I guess during the end of it, there was some kind of a that people don't like. I wouldn't like it either, but I didn't see it. I looked at the first part, and it was really about voter fraud in and the machines, how crooked it is, how disgusting it is. Then I gave it to the people. Generally, they look at the whole thing, but I guess somebody didn't, and they posted, and we took it down.
A number of Republicans are calling on you to apologize for that post. Is that something you're going to do?
No, I didn't make a mistake. I mean, I look at a lot of thousands of things. I looked at the beginning of it, it was fine. And they had that one post, and I guess it was a takeoff. By the way, a lot of people covered it. If you look at where it came from, I guess it was a takeoff from The Lion King.
So, just to get this straight, to make sure we provide clarity, The post was the video was a minute long. You only saw a few seconds. And you gave the approval for it to appear on your Truth Social platform. Ladies and gentlemen, this was not just the White House website, as some people have tried to decry. This was Trump's Truth Social platform. It was posted around 11:44 to 11:45 p.m. In fairness, nothing was originally written by him. We've seen from evidence in the past where Secretary of State Marco Rubio came up to him to show him a post that they were going to disseminate asking for his approval before it was put out there. So let me get this straight. The Secretary of State went to Trump for approval of a post, not this one, nothing to do with this one, this incident, but I'm talking about months ago. The Secretary of State walks up to you to seek approval of a post that's going to be put on your platform. But a staffer took the liberty of doing it on his own. Really. And that staffer did it at 11:45 at night. So he ain't got no curfew, no bedtime hours. He didn't need to get any sleep, huh? He in your bedroom. Really? That's what we saying? And oh, by the way, Trump, who can't spend, who struggles based on the facts to spend 12 minutes off of his social media platform, Truth Social, left it up there for 12 hours, didn't know. We were all born that night, not last night. Or most of us were born that night, not last night. We ain't fools. We get it. But the reason I bring all of that up is because I wanted to get back to the pettiness, the silliness, the reprehensible behavior, the disgusting tendencies, the juvenile tendencies. It's getting in the way of the Republican Party. It's getting in the way of the GOP. It's going to cost them the midterm. Which brings me back to what the original post was supposed to be about. It was a video supposedly focused largely on false 2020 election fraud claims. Why would the president of the United States, who's back in the office for a second term, be so overly concerned with 2020 election, quote unquote, rigged results, according to him? Why would you care if you're back in office and you're more powerful than ever? Because chances are, had Trump won re-election in 2020, we might have been better off if we had to have him for 2 terms, having him for back-to-back terms, as opposed to having him now, 4 years later, when he had additional time to build a team. The Stephen Millers of the world, the J.D. Vances of the world, the Ludniks of the world, and others. Elon Musk for a time with Doge. The list goes on and on. If Trump had won re-election, he might not have had the opportunity and the time to orchestrate the kind of things that he's orchestrated. So be careful what you wish for. And that's a different subject for another day. But what this comes back to is this. Why are you paying so much attention to the 2020 election? I'll tell you why he's paying attention to it. Because the fix is in. This is what I mean when I say the man is playing chess while people are playing checkers. He's setting the stage to say that the 2026 midterms are rigged. He wants to gather any kind of evidence to validate and add substance to his assertions that the 2020 election was rigged. So they rigged it in 2020 against us. They're going to rig it in 2026. The only time it ain't rigged is when he wins. Bill Maher has said this publicly on his show, Real Time with Bill Maher, on numerous occasions, and he was the first to say it, and he came back again and said it on this show. The man does not accept losing. He will come up with any excuse under the sun to leave doubts in the minds of as many American people as possible that their votes didn't count if it's against his or his wishes. That is what he is doing. Pay attention. He's doing this to set the stage to make the argument that it's rigged. Now the question would be, why would he do that? One could say, it's to grease the skids for Marco Rubio and J.D. Vance. But for somebody like Trump, that is entirely an altruistic perspective to have. What if it's so he could justify, I'm the only one that can stop this. I'm the only one that can save us from this. We need to circumvent the 22nd Amendment of the Constitution and allow me to run for a third term. You really, really think it's beyond the realm of comprehension? Are you still wondering why you haven't heard much from Steve Bannon right in that photo? Notice how quiet as a mouse he is. I wonder why. I don't have to wonder. Steve Bannon came right on this show and told you, we gonna get him a third term. He's a once-in-a-generational figure. We can't have somebody else in there. Forget the other Republican candidates. We want him. Steve Bannon said it and is unapologetic about it. He told you what he's plotting to do. You really, really think that Trump is going to sit back and say, well, you know what? I got my money. I'm good. Let me go and retire and let me get away from the cameras. You think he don't like being in front of the cameras? You think he don't like bloviating every chance he gets? You think he doesn't like magnetizing the cameras to him and wielding his power? It's exactly what he's doing. It's exactly what he's doing. And then Bad Bunny, oh, just a week or so after 3 million emails for the Epstein files were released, and people are still clamoring saying, oh, there's more that should be released. Where's more of the evidence? Where's more of the evidence? And we stupidly walking around thinking it's Trump, it must be Trump. He's got something to hide about himself. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't give a damn what anybody says. It's just my personal opinion. If there was evidence in there to vastly incriminate him, they'd have had it before the 2020 election. There's no way they wouldn't have got their hands on it and made sure that got out before the 2024 election. There's no way in hell. It's not about him. It's about his friends, whomever they may be, who he's on a mission to protect. Because quid pro quo is what he's all about. You're a representative that's represented the black community for ages, like Elijah Cummings, God rest his soul. Didn't even have the decency to say, bless him and his family, very sorry for his loss. What he said was, well, he wasn't very nice and kind and complimentary to me. You're sitting at a funeral with former President Barack Obama smiling ear to ear. And then the next thing you know, you talk about how he should thank you because of the rules that you changed that facilitate folks not being able, that wouldn't facilitate folks to be able to come after him, after your peoples, not a bipartisan committee, your peoples sat up there and said, you know what, Russian collusion, it was all a hoax. Now, folks on the Democratic side, whether they're elected officials or not, don't like it when I'm fair sometimes, but it's not going to change me. I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to tell you that I firmly believe the Democratic Party was too damn excessive in going after him. They didn't strategize and plan accordingly, and they didn't take into account the ramifications and the consequences, not just to themselves, but this country in the event that he was able to ward off all of that and win the election. And the chickens that are coming home to roost, figuratively and proverbially speaking, is in part due to them and their lack of strategic planning and how to deal with him on a political scale. You've justified every vile, despicable thing he does in their direction specifically because they're the ones that tried to put him in jail for the rest of his life. And the American people are the ones suffering because of it. Because of his vile tendencies, because of his despicable tendencies, because of his pettiness. And because of his apparent lack of sensitivity towards a lot of us in this country. Black folks 1 minute, Hispanics the next, while swearing up and down, he's got our support. You trying to eradicate black history, you don't have our support. Why don't you mind your damn business and concern yourself with running this country instead of trying to manipulate the minds of future generations of blacks to come by eradicating history from the books so they don't have access to learning about the iniquities this country has committed. If you're white and you're not racist and you're not some vile, despicable human being that would have murdered black people, we're not talking about you. What's the hiccup for? What's the hesitancy for? What are you scared of? And when you get to Bad Bunny and you bring up what you said about him, again, in the interest of fairness, Griff, go back to that original statement that Trump put on his Truth Social platform talking about Bad Bunny, because I need to revisit it for a second. Trump says here, after saying that the halftime show was terrible, makes no sense, is an affront to the greatness of America, doesn't represent our standards of success, creativity, or excellence. Who told you that? Keep it up, Griff. Who told you that, President Trump? This country was built on diversity. It was built on inclusion. It prospered because of inclusion. One would argue that being the business owner that you've been all of these years with the people that you've employed, you should know that. But he goes a step further. Nobody understands a word this guy is saying. 57 million people did. That's how many Spanish-speaking people are reportedly in America. Probably more than that in my estimation, but we'll go with that number for the time being. Want to talk about dancing is disgusting? Some people like it, some people don't. Got that part. Especially for young children that are watching from throughout the USA. So it's abhorrent to see those young ladies dancing. But it's not abhorrent to see the President of the United States on his own social media platform depicting a former contemporary. There's only been 47 terms of a presidency. 2 of them were filled by the lone black man that was the president of the United States of America in this country's history. And you depicted him as an ape. Oh, I apologize, you didn't write the post. A staffer did it. By the way, I forgot, a staffer that is unnamed, so we don't know who he is, which means we don't know what ramifications he received and whether or not they're worthy of our approval when it comes to that. An unnamed staffer. So it could just be anybody that suffered no ramifications whatsoever from such a vile, despicable act that Republicans and Democrats alike have spoken out against. Go back to that quote, Griff, because I want to read something to people, because we're not going to be fair, even though one would argue he deserves our unfairness. It's something that I wanted to point to y'all about. He said this is just a slap in the face to our country, which is setting new standards and records every single day, including the best stock market and 401ks in history. Ladies and gentlemen, that part right there, don't hate the message, or rather don't hate the messenger. Just listen. Barron's, highly reputable when it comes to evaluating our market. This is what they wrote, albeit 20 days ago, just 20 days ago. This is what they wrote. President Trump said the market had set 52 all-time high records since the election. This is according to Barron's. They said that is true. Since November 6, 2024, day after the election, the S&P 500 has had 52 record closes as of Tuesday's close, according to Dow Jones market data. The NASDAQ composite has notched 46 record closes. Here's how all 3 major indexes have performed since January 20th, 2025, the day that Donald Trump was inaugurated. is the 47th president of the United States. The S&P 500 has gained 13.3% and notched 42 record closes. The NASDAQ has gained 16.9% and notched 36 record closes. The Dow Jones Industrial Average has gained 11.5% and notched 23 record closes. Ladies and gentlemen, that means when it comes to the stock market and your 401ks, Donald Trump wasn't lying. Now, what happened in the last 20 days or whatever, I don't know. But I'm telling you as of right now, he wasn't lying about that, according to Barron's. Here's what Donald Trump doesn't realize. People will deal with an up and down stock market. In some cases, they'll even deal with a struggling economy before they deal with chaos in the streets of the United States of America, with a commander-in-chief who's usually instigating the chaos instead of deflating it. This is why the GOP is worried. This is why they're wondering about their future in office, because of how this president seems to act and how he doesn't seem to give a damn about anybody but himself. And I'm here to tell you right now, as somebody that has been in this game for a little while now, that has been talking politics, that has gotten to know elected officials on both sides of the aisle, along with pundits and commentators from both sides of the aisle. There's a whole bunch of people on the right who don't like that man, who don't approve of what he does, who doesn't approve of how he acts, who would never act that way. But they're scared to say so because they don't want to lose their seats of power. That puts us in quite a dilemma. Because if the very people in a position to neutralize him are scared to do so because they're fearful of retribution by him, essentially, and there's no other way to put this, albeit respectfully, you're thinking about yourself instead of America. Are you going to stand up? Yes, you did stand up, a lot of them, and said, hey, it was vile, it was despicable, there was no excuse to do what he did. There were others like Representative Byron Donald and Senator Tim Scott who called them and felt it was racist, but obviously when they spoke to him, they were told that the social media post would be removed and it was an unnamed staffer and they're taking him at his word. Okay, fine. Feel whatever way about them that you want, but understand not to lose sight of the big picture. The big picture here is that this is yet the latest distraction from what he's really, really, really trying to do. Two things. Avoid a laser-like focus on the Epstein files. And number two, push forward the narrative that the 2020 election was rigged, so he sets the stage for you voting in 2026 with this belief that it's going to be rigged again if the GOP is losing. That's what he's doing. And when I think about this too. You bring up the Super Bowl, right? Well, guess what? This is an article, Front Office Sports, written by Michael McCarthy, who just interviewed me at Super Bowl week. And what does his opening line to this article says? The headline reads, why the Olympics, not the Super Bowl, became a political football. Olympic athletes in Italy are sounding off about ICE and the Trump administration. And he writes, when Bad Bunny and Green Day were announced as Super Bowl 60 performers, many assumed the big game was poised to become a political football in the culture wars. After all, Bad Bunny just declared ICE out at the Grammy Awards last weekend. Green Day frontman Billy Joe Armstrong, a prominent critic of U.S. President Donald Trump, urged ICE agents to quit their quote-unquote shitty-ass jobs during a pregame event. But the competing shows between the NFL's Bad Bunny, Green Day, and Turning Point USA's Kid Rock almost entirely avoided mentioning Trump and his administration, with Bad Bunny's political statements focusing more on the history of Puerto Rico and the Americas. Here's the surprise. There have been far more controversial statements coming across the ocean in Italy during the Winter Olympics. With the Minnesota shooting deaths of Renee Good and Alex Preddy by ICE agents fresh in their minds, several Team USA athletes have made provocative comments about representing a country led by Trump. This is U.S. Olympic skier Hunter Hess writes, I think it brings up mixed emotions to represent the USA right now, the U.S. right now. I think it's a little hard. There's obviously a lot going on that I'm not the biggest fan of, and I think a lot of people aren't. That's all he said. This is Trump's response. The president of the United States, U.S. Olympic skier Hunter Hess, a real loser, said he doesn't represent this country in the current Winter Olympics. He did not say that. He's saying that. He continues, if that's the case, he shouldn't have tried out for the team, and it's too bad he's on it. Very hard to root for someone like this. Make America great again. So because an American citizen representing our country on an international scale, a place where political statements have always been made, Trump is trying to build momentum against Hunter Hess because Trump didn't like what he said. The president of the United States wanting people to vilify an individual for exercising his right as an American citizen representing our country, utilizing free speech, the First Amendment. Nobody has anything to say about that? Nothing at all, huh? You got to understand this. This is some very, very important stuff. Because I'm telling you right now, and I encourage everybody to read the article from Michael McCarthy in Front Office Sports. 1936, Nazi leader Adolf Hitler hosted the Berlin Games to try to prove the myth of Aryan supremacy, only to be embarrassed by Black Americans. So, Black American star Jesse Owens winning 4 gold medals on the world stage. Remember that? Remember during the Mexico City Games in 1968, American sprinters Tommy Smith and John Carlos made history, giving a Black Power salute on the awards podium? Remember that? Remember in 1980, U.S. President Jimmy Carter boycotted the Moscow Summer Olympics to protest the Soviet Union's invasion of Afghanistan? Were those not political statements? We all know what this is. Whether it's the Olympics, whether it's the Super Bowl, whether it's Colin Kaepernick, Trump is always looking to politicize something. As the president, he gets to get away with doing it. We don't have to fall for it. Damn that. The man looked at the video that he posted depicting the former president and first lady as apes, monkeys. He's talking about, he only saw the first part of a minute-long video, so he didn't watch the whole minute, just a few seconds. And those few seconds were about rigged elections from 2020. He can't let it go. You really think that a man that's talking about building hotels in the Gaza Strip, on the West Bank, that's bombing nuclear sites in Iran, that's ingratiated himself with the Jewish community, that's trying to stop a war between Russia and Ukraine, you really, really, really think that that man who's back in office, by the way, courtesy of crypto and Lord knows what else, has made billions for himself, for his children, for his friends? You really, really think that man is focused on 2020 for nothing? He's focused on 2020 because he wants to maintain power. And that cannot happen if the Democrats regain the House or the Senate or both in 2026. And it most certainly will jeopardize his, as far as I'm concerned, undeniable wish to remain in office after 2028. That's what this is about. So, hopefully for the last time, I'm going to ask a simple yet rhetorical question. What are you going to do? Are you going to fall for what he's doing? Or are you going to see it for what it is and plan accordingly? It's not about Bad Bunny. It's not about Hunter Hess. It's not about Green Day. It's not even about rigged elections in the sense that he's portraying it. It's about him wanting to maintain power. The non-politician, the atypical politician, has proven to be more adroit than most politicians have ever been. And this is his latest move. Excuse my language, but wake the fuck up. Remember, I told you he was coming. It wasn't just for the NFL. It wasn't just for the NBA. He's coming for another election. Whether it's 2026 or 2028 or 2026 and 2028, he's coming. What are you ready to do about it? That's it for this edition of Straight Shooter. Got to get on out of here. I'll holler at y'all another day. Actually, Wednesday, as in tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, over the airwaves of Sirius XM, POTUS Radio, Channel 124. By the way, baller alert, was that clear? I still sound like, oh, I'm agreeing with the Bad Bunny thing? Find better material, please. Find better material. Peace and love, everybody. The President of the United States of America has attacked Charlamagne the God of the Breakfast Club, of all people. You know I had to have something to say about that, right? Stephen A. Smith Show in the house while I'm still on vacation. Holla. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the special edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do every chance I get over the digital airwaves of YouTube. I love my audience. I love the support that you continue to give me. I love it when you show that you miss me, and I love being here for you. So I had to come back off vacation and get right into it because I heard that the president clapped at Charlamagne the God, buddy of mine, co-host of The Breakfast Club, the popular show, The Breakfast Club, over the weekend because of things that Charlamagne the God said when appearing on Trump's daughter-in-law's show, Lara Trump. My View is the title of the show. Actually, they've asked me to be a guest on that show. I am going to honor that request, Lara Trump. I know I've been running around with so much to do, so busy, but I'm definitely going to honor that request and show up on that show. But that's neither here nor there at this particular moment in time. President Trump responded to Charlamagne the God, calling him, quote, a sleazebag, after the radio host suggested that traditional Republicans will use rivaled interest in the Jeffrey Epstein files to take over the GOP again. For those of you who don't know much about Charlamagne the God, his real name is Leonard McKelvey. He's co-host of the popular radio show The Breakfast Club, which draws more than 4 million weekly listeners. Obviously, he was on the show. And he said to Lara Trump, I think that traditional conservatives are going to take the Republican Party back. He said to the president's daughter-in-law on her Fox News show, My View with Lara Trump. He said, I think this Epstein thing is going to be a way for traditional conservatives to take their party back. I really do. He said, I think they know this is the issue that has gotten the base riled up, referencing the disgraced financier who died by suicide in August of 2019. The MAGA base isn't letting this issue go. And for the first time, they know they can probably take the party back and not piss off the MAGA base, end quote. That was what Charlamagne had to say After the interview, in a Truth Social post, Trump praised his daughter-in-law, calling her amazing and talented, and called the show a big rating success. And then he got to Charlamagne the God, and an entirely different tone took place. Let me read this quote for you that you can see right here up on the full screen. The very wonderful and talented Lara Trump, whose show is a big rating success, put racist sleazebag Charlamagne the God, parentheses, why is he allowed to use the word God when describing himself, question mark. Can anyone imagine the uproar there would be if I used that nickname, parentheses, question mark. He's a low IQ individual, has no idea what words are coming out of his mouth, and knows nothing about me or what I have done, like just ending 5 wars, including a 31-year bloodbath between Republic of the Congo and Rwanda, where 7 million people have died, and there was no end in sight. He didn't know that, or India and Pakistan, or wiping out Iran's nuclear capabilities, or closing the horrendous open border, or creating the greatest economy where prices and inflation have come way down, and where stupid and corrupt Joe Biden set the record for doing the worst job as president ever. But this dope, Charlamagne, would vote for Sleepy Joe or Kamala. Remember, 1 year ago, our country was dead. Now it's the hottest country anywhere in the world. MAGA. Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. Courtesy of President Donald Trump via his Truth Social quote. Bit sensitive there, Mr. President. Why so sensitive? For what? And if you're going to have a problem with what Charlamagne said, shouldn't it be a problem with your base? It's not Charlamagne that's out there going off over the Jeffrey Epstein files. That would be Steve Bannon. That would be Tucker Carlson. That would be Candace Owens and various others, including some members of the GOP, I believe, including Lindsey Graham. And the guy Tillis, Senator Tillis, if I remember correctly, along with various others. You've had Republicans out there on Capitol Hill, votes that you need in order to, you needed them in order to get the big, beautiful bill passed. You'll need them for future legislation you're willing to push forward on the American people. The GOP is the one. Some members of the GOP are the ones speaking against you. And I don't think it's far-fetched what Charlamagne the God was saying at all. I don't think it will work. I disagree with him that it will work. But I think he's right on the money about what their intentions are. You yourself notice, Mr. President, they only cater to you because they have no choice. They didn't want you in office in 2020. They were ready to turn against you then. They wanted to reclaim power. We know how you feel about Mitch McConnell. While he's on his way out of office, why you feel that way? Because you thought he wasn't the biggest supporter of you? Now, back in 2016, remember little hands? Marco Rubio, that's how you disrespect him. Remember how you talked about Ted Cruz's wife? Remember how insulting and denigrating you were to other Republican candidates? Now, it's politics, so bygones are bygones are bygones. So I'm not bringing that up to engage in revisionist history. I'm simply saying anything goes in politics. And the flip side to it is that, hey, because it's you, and you have owned the base since 2015, they have no choice but to acquiesce to your wishes and your demands because they don't want to leave office. But the second you turn your back, the second you show a shred, a sliver of vulnerability, you know, Mr. President, they will backstab you. They will do everything they can to undermine your power. So rather than going at Charlamagne the God, why don't you go at them? Why couldn't you say something like, I wish they'd try. It would be a huge mistake. How you think Grassley's feeling about you right now when you called him out the other day? And he talked about being personally insulted with the personal attacks that you've aimed in this direction. That's a Republican. Some of them don't like you. Some of them cater to you because it's politically expedient to do so. You know that. So why go at Charlamagne the God? Hit a nerve? Tell the truth? I think he's telling the truth about what the intent is. I just don't think it'll work. I don't think you, Mr. President Donald Trump, has anything to worry about when it comes to the GOP. They will bow to your whim in a heartbeat. Because you'll call them out, you'll embarrass them, and you'll get them out of office. And they know it, and they're scared to death of you. just like you like it. I don't think you have anything to worry about. I think Charlamagne the God is wrong on that part. But I do think he's right about what their intent would be and what their wishes are, which means I think the attack on him was completely unnecessary and uncalled for. He's not low IQ, highly successful radio host, successful podcast, successful Black Effect Network. He has the pulse of the people. And a lot of people may disagree with him, but they can't avoid what he's saying because he's unapologetic about where he stands and how he feels. Some would say, you're that way, sir. So maybe you need to rethink what you said. Not that you will, because we know you double down instead of retract. We know this. But let's go to your daughter-in-law, Lara Trump. Did you see how amazing you said she was? Did you see how friendly she was with Charlamagne? Did you see how she articulated that she had been a guest on his show? Did you see the very respectful conversation, the back and forth that they had with one another? Did you see how she invited him back? What you tripping for? If he said something that was outlandish and egregious, don't you think your daughter-in-law, who's a pretty astute woman, by the way, I like her show. I've been impressed by what I've seen her do. And I'm going to go on the show soon. I really will, because I've been asked to. But she's been very impressive. She didn't have a problem with what he said, because she knew he was talking about them, not you. A little bit sensitive there, Mr. President. I wonder why. Epstein file, that's what it got you? Got you that fidgety? If so, why? I'm just asking. I'm just asking. It was rhetorical. And I'll leave it at that. Because I got the man on right now himself. The guy you were talking about. The guy you called the sleaze bag. With a low IQ. Anybody that knows him wouldn't accuse him of some low IQ. Yeah, some people might call him that sleazebag stuff. You know, Charlamagne don't play, so he gonna say what he gonna say, and some people might feel that way about him. But ain't nobody gonna question the brother's IQ now. That ain't gonna happen. Well, you heard what I had to say about it, but who better to talk to than my next guest, the man that was verbally attacked by the President of the United States, Donald Trump, the one and only Charlamagne the God, co-host of the popular show, The Breakfast Club, listen, it doesn't get much bigger than them. Over 1 billion views thus far this year alone. Just continuing to do their thing. Author of a couple of books. We'll get into all of that as well. Charlamagne the God is right here with yours truly. What's going on, big time? How are you, man? How's everything?
Stephen A. Smith, what's happening, my brother? How are you?
Man, I'm doing great, man. Just struggling with a little laryngitis, but I'm getting better, so I'll be good. Let's get right to it, man. I just want to let you know that in case my voice sounded a little bit raspier than usual. You heard what the president had to say about you. I'm going to read this right here. When you were on Lara Trump's show, all right, My View, just a few days ago, and you alluded to the conservatives within the GOP having an opportunity to take advantage of this whole Trump association with Jeffrey Epstein, somebody he knew for about 15 years or so. Obviously, the president took umbrage to that, and one of the things he said was, about you. First of all, he called you a sleazebag and discounted your intelligence. And secondly, he says he's a low IQ individual, has no idea what words are coming out of his mouth, and knows nothing about me or what I have done. Just ending 5 wars, including a 31-year bloodbath between Republic of the Congo and Rwanda, where 7 million people have died, and there was no end in sight. That's just some of the things that he said. Your response to the President of the United States, my man?
I mean, that's his opinion. You know, I'm a person that still believes in the First Amendment. So, you know, we all have, freedom of speech. We all have the right to reserve our opinions about people, to express our opinions about people. And I'm never going to be a person that steps on somebody's First Amendment rights. Unlike the President of the United States of America, Donald Trump, who seems, to be implementing this authoritarian strategy and is using that to silence any voices who speak out against anything that he does. When I was on Lara Trump's show, and I don't know if you saw the conversation, Stephen A., I thought I thought I was pretty fair like I usually am.
I really did. I thought you were very fair. I thought you were very even-handed. You even reminded me of the importance of maybe I should stop calling myself an independent because we live in a binary two-party system where, you say, I saw what you were saying, and obviously it made all the sense in the world, so I wanted to give you credit for that. But what is it that you think that riled him up most? Because he knows what he's done. He sued ABC, he sued CBS, obviously NBC, Stephen Colbert. He's taking credit for getting him, getting his show canceled this coming May. Everywhere you turn, there's something with him and the media. So that's speaking to what you're alluding to in regards to First Amendment rights. But is it that you think riled him up, or was it the fact that you said that conservatives are positioning themselves to sort of dilute his voice a little bit to some degree and gain some extra power?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of all of those things. Me pointing to the fact that he's the one who said on the very first day, I'm going to bring inflation down. On the very first day, I'm going to bring, grocery prices down. And we know prices aren't down and inflation isn't dead. We just saw the job numbers come out was last Friday and unemployment is up. Then he fired the labor statistic chief, who put those numbers out. And also, let's just forget the stats for a second, right? I was in Maryland earlier this year for my daughter's cheerleading competition, right? And people were coming up to me, talking to me, telling me how they're losing their jobs, because of what Doge was doing. And I'm an ambassador also for the food bank in New York City. I see firsthand how federal funding, being cut for programs like that impact people. So you can't just, throw a bunch of stats out there and tell people things are all good, when they aren't. And that's actually kind of crazy coming from President Trump, because that's the same mentality that hurt Democrats when they was talking about Bidenomics and telling people stock prices are up and GDP is up, but people in the streets are still hurting. You can't keep peeing on people's head and telling them that it's raining. And I mean, that's what's happening right now, from the economy to Epstein.
Well, listen, economy, like you pointed out, they was projecting 113,000 jobs in July, and it turned out to be only about 73 to 75,000. So they came up short, and he fires the commissioner for labor statistics. So you were talking about that. Obviously, we hear about the tariff wars, and we're hearing that there's $10 trillion in pledges. You and I are from the same kind of hood, my brother. I guess for me, what resonates with me is that's a pledge. That ain't a guarantee. That could be reneged upon at any particular moment in time. I understand that if it comes to fruition, it will definitely stir the economy in a positive direction. But until it definitively happens, I'm not caught up in promises of manufacturing jobs and semiconductor jobs, and I'm not caught up in all of that. I got to see it actually happen. I'll give him credit for the border because I think it needed to be closed because Biden had it wide open. I don't like the way he's going about it, but I only say that to say, if there's a person, in spite of all the criticism that you may throw in his direction, that would speak favorably about something that he's done, if you believe there is something favorable that he has done, somebody that would say it is you. So as we sit here today, having said what he said about you, is there anything positive that you could point to about the Trump administration in your eyes at this particular moment in time?
I mean, we talked about it on Lara's show. Lara brought up, the border. I am a stern believer in border security. I just don't like the way that he's going about doing it, because he told us that he was keeping the murderers and the rapists, and the illegal immigrants out of our country. Nobody in America should have a problem with that. But when you see, people who are actually, going through the process of trying to be in this country legally, being detained, and being deported and sent back to countries that they've never even been to, like, that doesn't even make any sense. Like, going to the Home Depot to snatch up people who are, just out there looking to, make a honest day's living, that doesn't make any sense. And I don't think it's anything wrong with calling that out. And, I think to go back to the other question you asked me too, the theory I had, about this political coup that could be going on in the Republican Party. You're familiar, Stephen A., with the rumors that J.D. Vance went to meet with Rupert Murdoch in Montana. That was the same week Trump's letter to Epstein was published by Rupert Murdoch's Wall Street Journal. And then Trump sued Rupert Murdoch. And then, there was another week where Mike Johnson shut the House down to avoid a vote on releasing the Epstein
Went
files.
out early release for vacation.
The Wall Street Journal came out that week and said, Trump knew he was in the Epstein files since May. And I just look at how the MAGA base has responded to the Epstein issue. It just feels like traditional conservatives who lost the party to Trump could use this opportunity to get it back, because the MAGA base wouldn't be upset at all if they decided to impeach Trump and vote to remove him because he's in the Epstein files. And
Well,
I think being that I said that along with the economy, and I said it on Laura Trump's show, his daughter-in-law on Fox News, I think that's what caused that response yesterday.
So are you anticipating that he's going to come after you the way that he's coming after everybody else in the media? Not everybody else, but a lot of people in the media. Are you expecting something of that magnitude? And
he already did. I mean, it's funny, right? Because like today, my phone, of course, is blowing up, and it's everybody from, elected officials, just to the homies, right? Are other people in the media space, and they all have like the same sentiment, and the sentiment is, hey man, be careful, be safe, make sure your security's on point. Those MAGA folks are crazy, and it just made me think to myself, damn, we're at that point in our society where you can't even criticize your president without people thinking that your safety is in danger. If that's not authoritarian strategy, I don't know what is. So just the fact that people were calling my phone saying that today, it says a lot about where we are, as a society. So I don't know what's going to happen.
It says a lot about where we are as a society. We are disintegrating before our very eyes, as far as I'm concerned. But what does it say to you about you? Do you feel you need to watch your back? Are you concerned?
I always got my head on a swivel, Stephen A. I didn't got punched in the street a couple of times throughout my career, so I always got my head on a swivel. So if you ask me, do I feel like I need to watch my back? I'm not going to watch my back any more than I currently already do.
Let me transition to the MAGA base, because that's where you and I part ways. I think we disagree here. I don't think the Republican Party, the GOP, is capable of dissipating Trump's voice in any way. I don't think they're capable of doing it. And I'll tell you why. Partially because of the Democrats. Because, again, let's look at Mamdani in New York City. Democratic nominee just beat Cuomo in the primaries. Is favored to beat Cuomo and Eric Adams, who are both running as independents in the New York City mayoral race. You see the Gavin Newsom, and even though he's leaving office, we know what his history was in terms of progressive verbiage and what have you, even though he's trying to lean towards the center because he's plotting a 2028 run. I was born at night, not last night. I see exactly what the hell he's doing. We got a cat in Minnesota that's considered to be progressive, and apparently he's making some noise as well. I think that when you have that going on the left, Trump doesn't have to worry about anybody on the right, because they'll never go in a different direction. To that you say what?
Well, that's interesting you bring that up, because I'm on record as saying that, people may rebel against MAGA, right? And we pretty much kind of knew Donald Trump would fumble the ball in some way, shape, or form, but we know that Democrats don't have the proper team on the field to recover the fumble. So just because they will rebel against MAGA doesn't necessarily mean they're going to go, towards Democrats. And that's why I feel like traditional conservatives have the opportunity to take their party back and present that, traditional conservative way of doing things to America. And it'll be a large majority of people who feel like, that's more stable than what's going on with MAGA. That's more stable than what's currently going on with the Democratic Party. I think I'm going to stay right here, because they're going to be the ones that look like, they're sort of in the center. I feel like even, the progressive left, looks like they're in the center right now. Because when you talk about somebody like Mamdani, the reason he's resonating is because he's using one word, Stephen A., affordability. He's simply going out here and saying, New York is too expensive to live in. And guess what? People all over the country feel like that about wherever they are if you're not in a certain tax bracket. They feel like the country is just, too expensive. Affordability. Anybody who talks that language is going to resonate with people. That's why Trump resonated last election. He was talking, he literally said, I won the election off one word, groceries. The groceries were too damn high. That's it.
Listen, affordability, but your other word, safety. Those are the two primary things, because you can afford stuff, but if you don't feel safe in the streets, you ain't gonna go out and spend. And if you ain't going out and spending, you ain't fueling the economy, and you're gonna be counterproductive to everything that they're trying to establish. And in the case of Mamdani, I think the one thing that's working for him is that he comes from a well-off family, if my research is correct. And so as a result of that, when you got a president that's supposedly a billionaire, we know he's a billionaire now, but was supposedly a billionaire coming into office, okay? And America didn't mind that. They're certainly not going to hold it against somebody that lived or had an affluent life available to him before capturing office. So I get you on that part. But I also agree with you about this. I'm a Wes Moore fan. I'm a Josh Shapiro fan. But I'm also not a thief. I'm not going to steal an idea from Charlamagne the God. I loved what you said on Lara Trump's show when you brought up Jon Stewart, Comedy Central. Listen, he's a viable candidate. He knows the issues. He's smart as hell. He's a viable candidate for the job, but you're the perfect person to ask this question to. One of the things that people think jeopardizes stuff for Mamdani is that they don't believe he has spoken out strongly enough against anti-Semitism. On the flip side, whether it's a Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, whether it's a Jon Stewart, obviously we know their association, they're Jewish individuals. Considering what's going on with Israel, in Gaza, etc., how receptive or attractive do you think either of them would be as a presidential candidate for 2028?
I don't think anybody will hold Jon Stewart's identity against him simply because Jon Stewart is a person who speaks truth to power regardless. Right. Jon Stewart can speak to, how atrocious October 7th was. He can speak to, of course he doesn't want anti-Semitism to happen. He's a Jewish man, but he can also speak to, the inhumane things that are happening to those innocent people in Gaza. It's one thing to go into Gaza and weed out Hamas. It's another, to kill a bunch of innocent, men, women, and children. And I think Jon Stewart has done a fantastic job, speaking out against that. And to that point about Jon Stewart, he has the cultural cachet of 30 plus years of being on Daily Show, being on TV, and he's actually gotten legislation passed before. Yep. Nobody can forget what Jon Stewart did, for the firefighters,
for the veterans. 9/11, yes.
On 9/11. Yeah. Like, I don't think there's a better messenger, period, than Jon Stewart. I don't even look at it as a party thing. I'm just looking at it as a person who actually cares. And I think Jon Stewart is one of those people. Governor Shapiro, I personally like Governor Shapiro. I think that it'll be more of a backlash towards him just because he's a politician. I don't think it's about him being Jewish as much as it is him being a politician, an elected official. I think for some reason, people look at elected officials, in regards to that issue worse than they would somebody like a Jon Stewart.
Well, that's the Jewish element. What about this when it comes to Wes Moore as an African-American who obviously served our country with distinction and what have you before he became the governor of Maryland? Some people believe that the reason why Trump is in office, was ever in office rather to begin with, was because it was white backlash against Obama and his time in the White House. Well, some people will look at Wes Moore and say, you know what, are we going to want that twice? Because they'll think along those lines. I won't, you won't, he'd have my vote. But I wonder, do you feel that that would be a factor if indeed he decided to change course and say, I'm not going to just focus on Maryland. I think I should be the president of the United States of America.
Yeah, listen, all of those things factor, Stephen. We can't lie to ourselves. We can't lie to ourselves about Shapiro. We can't lie to ourselves about Wes Moore. This is still America at the end of the day. So there are going to be some people who hold, Wes Moore being black against him. It is going to be some people who hold, Josh Shapiro being Jewish against him. But I think all of us just need to focus on ideas. Like, let's not focus on the individual. Let's not focus on their identity. Let's put their ideas on the table and see if their ideas can help take our country, in a positive direction, in the future.
My issue with you when you say that, Charlamagne, is that the ideas, you're absolutely right. You're not wrong. But we know when it comes election time, campaign time, they pretend to have ideas, but they really resort to denigrating the other side. We know what they do. Ultimately, it's about, oh my God, what's going to happen to you if you vote for that person? What's going to happen for you if you vote for that person? That's what it is. And by the way, I made news. I think you may have seen it, but did it, in case you didn't, I made news when I spoke back at Michelle Obama. She was just talking about sports TV compared to reality TV. I took no offense to that whatsoever. Yeah, it was totally cool. It's no big deal to me. But I took the opportunity to remind her that I was still a bit salty when she was campaigning on behalf of Kamala Harris and was saying a vote for him was a vote against us as women. And I'm saying, well, damn, people vote for the economy. People vote about immigration. People vote about safety in the streets, affordability, like you pointed out to. It's entirely possible that there's a plethora of issues, at least for men, that come before pro-choice or pro-life. That's all I was trying to say. So to act as if to vote against that would have been an indictment against women, I didn't like that.
I think you're absolutely right. I think that there's a lot of nuanced reasons as to why people cast their votes. And, the only thing I would say to what you just said is once that is presented to us, right? When somebody says, well, okay, I know the reasons you may want to vote for this person, but look at what he's going to do with this and how this is going to impact a large swath of a certain demographic. Then we got to make decisions as fathers, as husbands, as brothers. We got to make decisions. I voted for Kamala. Yeah. That's right. So we got to make decisions based on that. But yeah, I just think it's all very nuanced, man. It's a very interesting conversation. What was the I forgot the question.
No, it wasn't. No, you answered it. You answered it already because I was talking about. I was talking about just what I said in terms of that was my position, and you talked about how you agree with the nuance, but in the same breath, once it's presented to you, you can understand her point. What were your thoughts about Kamala Harris not removing herself from a potential another presidential run, but definitely saying she's not running for the gubernatorial seat in California? I personally believe there's no way in hell she's going to win the presidency in 2028. I don't think that she's going to be the candidate. I think her time, she had a chance at that. It didn't get done, and that's where I'm at with it. What about you?
Kamala's a friend, man.
Yeah.
I've been supporting Kamala for a long time. But I can't sit here and say I disagree with you. I think that she should do whatever it is that she wants to do. But when I heard her say that, the system is broken and she wants to take a step back from the system, her whole career has been the system. I just don't see.
It made no sense.
Her whole career has been the system. I just don't see how now, she's going to take a step back away from the system. But I do think that, her mentality of wanting to go out there and saying, I want to be more of a public servant and actually, be on the ground, meeting people, shaking their hands, looking them in the eyes, talking to them. I think that will have more of an impact than people think. I saw people saying that, she wouldn't make a good surrogate because, she's unpopular, and I'm putting unpopular in air quotes. Yeah, I mean, she got the second most votes of any Democratic nominee in a presidential election ever. Now, I don't know, what that personally means, especially when the first one was Joe Biden. But if you got that many people who went out there and voted for you, then she clearly has some type of cachet that she probably could use to help other individuals win elections.
Right.
I don't know what happens for her in 2028 as far as the Democratic primary and things like that. Because I think where her biggest opposition will come from, Stephen A?
Where?
The Democratic Party.
Yep.
Because you got so many people in the Democratic Party who didn't want her when she ran for the 107 days. You think they're going to want her in 2028?
Right. Which is the latest reason why I don't think she'd have a snowball's chance in hell of winning. I'm not saying that she couldn't be a surrogate, go out there and campaign, give speeches, assist, but she can't be the candidate. And now, again, we got to remind her she couldn't make it to Iowa in 2020, and in 2024 she bypassed the primaries. We all know that. Part, obviously, Joe Biden had everything to do with that because he didn't step away as early as he should have, and we get that part. But in the end, the popularity was a question mark. And just like she went on The View, and she said when Sonny Austin asked her, is there anything that you would do differently? And she said, no, I can't think of any. This was another example when they asked her the other day about her stepping away, and she's like, I want to step back from it. The system is broken. You're a career politician. You've been there practically all your life. You've been an attorney, a state attorney general. You've been a prosecutor. You've been a senator. You've been a vice president. My God, you've been a part of it. And now you're saying it's broken. That means you couldn't do but so much to fix it when you was in it. So how are we going to believe
the system was
that
broken
going to do that now? It's long before.
Yeah, the system was broken long before Donald Trump,
That's right.
got into office. But like I said, she can do whatever it is that she wants to do. I'm interested to read her book, 107 Days, because I really want to see if she does distance herself, from Biden in that book. Because whoever is going to lead the party moving forward, I don't care if it's, Kamala Harris or whoever it's going to be, you got to throw that old regime under the bus. We can't sit here and act like we didn't see what we saw the last 4 years with President Biden and how they tried to pee on our head and tell us it was raining by telling us that this guy was a good candidate, even though we all had eyes and all had ears and could see that he was falling apart right before our eyes. If y'all think that, Kamala Harris, got beat in November, I think President Biden would have got his ass handed to him.
No question. I totally agree.
On President Obama, John McCain levels of electoral difference, vote difference. That's what I personally think. So I think, we also don't give Kamala enough credit for revitalizing what I think was a dead campaign. You know, that's just my personal opinion.
That's
I think
fair.
she brought a lot of energy to a dead campaign.
Yeah, because we saw it brought it, and he looked, and damn near he looked. Listen, one commentator came on the air and said he looked like an old man in a nursing home waiting to be fed his applesauce. That's how he looked. So when Kamala came along, I mean, it was a breath of fresh air, no doubt about that. Last couple of questions before I let you go. With all of this being said, I know you, and I've come to know you well enough to know that you wouldn't say what you said to Lara Trump just because of the Epstein files about Trump and the base possibly plotting to reestablish and regain a power that has dissipated since he's come along and essentially taken over the Republican and the GOP, right? What other than the Epstein file do you point to? I know there's a plethora of things you don't like with what we're seeing. Over 300,000 federal jobs, you know, courtesy of Doge, wiped out so many people affected in their employment status and what have you. We get all of that. What I'm asking is, what have you seen specifically that you believe the Republicans will assist in trying to attack him to undermine his prowess and compromise him to some degree so they can regain some stature?
It's those two things. It's the economy and it's Epstein. And you know, and even it goes back to the safety aspect. I always say all the time, man, all any American wants is more money in their pocket, and they want to feel safe. And when you go back to what Doge did to the economy earlier this year, you know, getting rid of a lot of different people's, you know, government jobs. When you go down to these red states like where I'm from in South Carolina, and you see people's, you know, SNAP benefits getting cut, and you know that 17 million people in a few years aren't going to have Medicaid. Those are the things people are looking to and saying, yo, you told us immediate change on day one. And I see you deporting all of these people, and, you know, the border's getting more secure, but you told us deporting all of these people was going to bring jobs back. You told us that you was going to bring manufacturing back to America. You know what else is going to hurt them, Stephen A? You're talking about bringing manufacturing back to America. You're talking about bringing factories back to America. But AI going to replace all them jobs. So it's like the people who think that they're going to get jobs in these factories, you not. It's going to be the artificial intelligence. It's going to be the robots working in those jobs. So once again, that's going to be another campaign promise that you did not fulfill. So I think it's just between the economy and Epstein, because Epstein is the thing that made, for whatever reason, made the base finally be like, oh, they lying to us. Forget everything else that has happened that you
Pam
can point
Bondi
to.
came out. Dan Bongino came out.
That's right.
Cash Patel came out.
That's
they
right.
all said, and they didn't say, it's not like they said we're going to get it. They said we have it. We have it.
That's right.
Cash Patel,
That's
before
right.
he was sworn in as director of FBI, he said, oh, it's on the FBI's desk. You know, he had it. Pam Bondi said, I have it on my desk. They
That's
gave
right.
the impression, oh, we got it. Wait until you see it. And then they showed us nothing.
And listen, I was surprised by the reaction of MAGA. I was surprised by the way that people I know who supported Trump reacted to it. It was the first time where they all had a visceral reaction to some negative news about Donald Trump. And so I think it's between those things, the economy and Epstein, I think, and just world stability is going to make the GOP say, hey, the traditional conservatives, we got to use this opportunity to take our party back.
Before I let you get on out of here, on Larry Trump's show, you also said Obama was a generational talent in that position as a politician. That impact that he has undeniable. You also said whether we like it or not, that applies to Trump. Absolutely. Now, unless he successfully goes about the business, courtesy of Steve Bannon and others, circumventing the 22nd Amendment and running for a third term, this is it for him. This is his run. It's really about trying to preserve win the midterms so the Republicans can maintain control and he can get done whatever it is that he wants to get done. But for all intents and purposes, he's not expected, at least at this moment, to be the candidate for the presidency in 2028. Is there a candidate on the Republican side that you believe can come close to replicating his impact on the GOP?
No, not even a little bit. Like not even close. Like I said, he's a once in a lifetime, 101 political juggernaut. Like it took years and years of, cultural cachet, being a celebrity, an 80s celebrity at that, then into the 90s and 2000s was Celebrity Apprentice. It took all of that to build, who he currently is. And then that, turned into him running for president in 2016, winning, with one of the greatest political movements we've ever seen in MAGA, and then coming back in 2024 and winning again. There is nobody out there who has, on the Republican side, that has that charisma. There's nobody out there who, strikes fear into other elected officials and like he does. So no, and that's why I told Laura last night, don't make the same mistake that Democrats have made, because I'm gonna use a basketball analogy since I'm talking to you, Stephen A. Steph Curry, greatest shooter of all time.
That's right.
Everybody and their mama tried to play like Steph Curry, but guess what? Y'all ain't Steph Curry. Democrats did that with Barack Obama. Everybody tried to be like Barack Obama. I want to be the guy that can, speak so eloquently and bring this big tent party together and bring all these different groups together. They weren't able to do that. It's going to be the same thing in the Republican Party. Nobody is going to be able to galvanize folks on the Republican side the way that a Donald Trump has, which is all the more reason why I feel like, the GOP is going to move away from MAGA, especially based off what happens in the midterms. If they keep control of everything in the midterms, then, things will probably be different. But if they lose control of everything in the midterms, GOP going in a totally different direction.
Charlamagne, I completely agree with you if the left don't get crazy again and start focusing on issues that we don't care about. I mean, if you got if you've got socialists or people who make it very, very clear they lean extreme left and they're not trying to be centrist, they're not trying to engage. I don't want to use the word compromise because that's acquiescing and capitulating, and people don't want that. They consider that a weak word, but you've got to show the ability to be able to do business across the aisle so you can get things done. If the left gives you that impression that they're asking people to move to the extreme left, I think that compromises everything you just brought up.
Yeah, but we keep talking about it in terms of Republican versus Democrat. I'm talking about it in terms of authoritarian regime versus democracy. So if you got some common sense conservatives, right, just some common sense conservatives who realize, like, okay, we're not going in this direction. We just going to try to keep things here, just, typical, conservative politics we used to, that's going to look more like common sense than what people could be doing that are too far left, or what people could be doing that's too far MAGA. But whoever is just simply talking about affordability and keeping people safe and just bringing some common sense sanity back to this country, that's who people are going to gravitate towards. But to your point, I don't think the Democrats have assembled the team yet for us to even be talking about them. I think the battle is really going to be between MAGA and traditional conservatives.
I got you. Man, before I let you get on out of here, let me just remind everybody, first of all, author of 2 books, Black Privilege and Shook One, both damn good books. Three now.
Get
What's
on
the third?
All right.
Why
Why Small Talk Sucks.
There we go. Yep. There we go. You got that. You're still a co-host of the podcast, The Brilliant Idiots. What else are you doing, especially with the Black Effect? Talk to me about what you're doing with all of that.
Black Effect Podcast Network, we got 45 different podcasts. We're partnered with great shows like the 85 South Show and Drink Champs and All the Smoke. We just rolled out the Drink Champs Podcast Network in conjunction with the Black Effect and iHeart. Memphis Bleak Rock Solid is the first show on that. I got my book imprint, Black Privilege Publishing with Simon & Schuster. This year we were blessed to put out 2 New York Times bestsellers. One was from the great legendary Don Staley, Uncommon Favor. The other was from a couple of young ladies named Mandy and Wheezy. Decisions podcast is what they host, and they put out a book called No Holds Barred. Both of those books hit the New York Times bestsellers list. So right now we're gearing up for our next release on August 12th, which is Cheryl McKissack Daniels. She has a book coming out called The Black Family Who Built America. If you don't know anything about the McKissacks, McKissack is a construction company. They contributed to the building of Lincoln Financial Field in Philly. They contributed to building the Barclays Center, JFK, a terminal at JFK. Just a lot of different, landmarks here in America they've contributed to. And she's telling the story of, her being the head of a 7th generation Black-owned construction company in America. So that'll be out August 12th. So we just working, Stephen A. That's it.
Yo, man, I appreciate you, man. Thanks so much for coming on the show on such quick notes. Appreciate you. Breakfast Club, I'm always here for you, brother. Anytime you call, feel free to holler at me.
Thank you, Stephen A. Appreciate you, brother.
One and only Charlamagne the God. Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show. Before I get on out of here, I had to talk about a story that's very, very important. And albeit indirectly, It involves Caitlin Clark, the Department of Justice, and quite possibly the President of the United States himself. Somebody got to say it, so I'm going to say it. But one thing I will not do is take credit for this. I am looking at the Wall Street Journal. The author of the article is a guy by the name of Sean McLean. Let me read to y'all the opening couple of graphs because I want you to hear the impact of this. This is serious. This is serious. And I could say it with my team here, having the footage and the receipts to back me up. I could be in that I told you so mode. I really, really could. But I ain't going to do that because I'm in a good mood. I'm going to be chill. But I could be saying I told you so. Because let me read this to you. Caitlin Clark has done for the women's NBA what Michael Jordan once did for the NBA. Made it more valuable, watchable, and marketable. Instead of protecting its transformative star, the league's leadership ignores the relentless targeting of Ms. Clark, treating its greatest asset as if she were a PR headache. That approach could turn into a legal liability for the WNBA. Since she joined the league last year, Ms. Clark's impact has been seismic. Merchandise sales soared 601%. Indiana Fever viewership jumped 170%. The team's value tripled. League Pass subscriptions climbed 366%. App engagement rose 613%. And her endorsements topped $11 million. She's the economic engine driving the league forward. Mystics co-owner Sheila Johnson questioned Ms. Clark's 2024 Time Athlete of the Year recognition. Ms. Clark shattered fan vote records with 1.29 million all-star votes, yet ranked only 9th among guards on the player ballot. Ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't stop there. Because before I read you some quotes, I want to also read you why I'm saying this to you. Remember when I brought up the 2024 U.S. Olympic roster, how she was left off of that and how stupid that was for Team USA women's basketball to leave her off? Remember I said that? They said this is where they're going now. Ms. Clark's targeting may reflect a culture of disparate treatment, and the evidence provides reasonable cause for a federal probe into potential civil rights violations. Am I making it up now? Remember I said this months ago. Remember I talked about people being jealous. The Cheryl Swoops of the world and others. Remember I pointed that stuff out? Remember I talked about the rough housing? Remember I talked about all of that? Let me read further. This would mirror the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission investigation into the Erica Hamby's pregnancy discrimination claims against the WNBA and her team. Congress and Labor and Justice Departments would be justified in examining the facts. At Harvard and Columbia, during anti-Semitic protests, institutional leaders played down threats and failed to protect students. Congress and Trump's administration demanded answers. Columbia's recent $221 million settlement for civil rights violations shows the effect of such scrutiny. If the Trump administration can settle with Columbia for a $221 million settlement over what's taking place on the campus, you think you can definitively rule out what kind of noise can be made if the WNBA continues to allow this treatment of Caitlin Clark? You really, really think they're going to be silent? Now, before you go any further, I'm not here saying that the case could be will be won by the government if it got to that point or anything like that. I'm saying they have a case. They have an argument. And do we doubt that at his discretion, at his disposal, if he finds this to be an issue that's politically expedient for him, that Trump won't use this to feed his base? The golden child in her second year in the league, who was top 4 in MVP voting last year, the assist leader last year, a galvanizing talent that has done wonders for the NBA. If she is seen to be physically getting abused on a basketball court in a way that is such a clear and flagrant discrepancy compared to what happens to others, that man is not going to say something? Didn't you just hear Charlamagne the God point to Trump using issues to evade other issues? You don't think Caitlin Clark could become an issue of national, potentially international, and definitely federal proportions? You don't think so? Let me tell you what kind of quotes Trump would lead on. Sophie Cunningham told the Wall Street Journal, she's Caitlin Clark's teammate, the Indiana Fever, the star player of the league is not being protected. Rebecca Lobo, analyst, ESPN. What does she say? Every single one of those plays against Caitlin Clark has been a foul. Dick Vitale, when the 1.29 million all-star votes came in for Caitlin Clark, yet she was ranked 9th among guards on a player ballot. Quote, absolutely pure jealousy that the WNBA players voted Caitlin Clark the 9th best guard. Someday they will realize what she has done for all of the players in the WNBA. Chartered planes, increase in salaries, sold out crowds, improved TV ratings, etc. And they ain't lying. They ain't lying. We're going to go back to what I said. Let me regurgitate my comments. Since she joined the league last year, immediately had charter flights. Merchandise sales soared 601%. Indiana Fever viewership jumped 170%. The team value tripled. League pass subscriptions climbed 366%. App engagement rose 613%. Her endorsements topped 11 million. And oh, by the way, when she was out for the All-Star weekend this year, because she was hurt, by the way, because of the roughhouse tactics all of those folks alluded to, the ratings dropped 36%. They still had over 2 million views, but they had over 3 million last year. It dropped because she wasn't playing. Now, I told y'all, Candace Parker tried to tell y'all, Rebecca Lobo is trying to tell y'all, the goose that lays the golden eggs, the tide that lifts all boats. Do you know what Gino Auriemma said? He said she's being targeted. I don't remember when Michael Jordan came into the league, guys looking to go out and beat him up. Only the Detroit Pistons were looking to beat him up. And then after that, the New York Knicks with Pat Riley and Ewing and Anthony Mason and Xavier McDaniels and Charles Oakley and all of these guys. The John Starks of the world, Derek Harpers of the world eventually, stuff like that. Magic Johnson and Larry Bird knew that Michael Jordan was the future. Commissioner David Stern knew Michael Jordan was the future. The entire league knew this brother was otherworldly. And this is with Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Isaiah Thomas, Mark Aguirre, and cats like that in the league. This is with Charles Barkley coming in the league in 85. This is Ewing being there in 84. This is with Jordan being the third pick. 84, I mean, you see all of this stuff going on. This is with Pippen evolving into his own. This is with Karl Malone and John Stockton and these brothers in the league. This is with Akeem Adreem Olajuwon. And Ralph Sampson was in the league. And everybody knew it was Jordan. And what they did, they competed against him. But the roughhouse tactics took place when he went against the Pistons because the championship was on the line. You didn't see all of this stuff in regular season games. And we want to act. I want to make sure that I'm clear. Some of it, Caitlin Clark brings on herself because she talks, she chirps, she antagonizes. That's how Angel Reese became so famous, because Angel Reese clapped back at her the way she was clapping back at people leading into that national championship loss to LSU a few years back when she was at Iowa. And that's how Angel Reese became famous. So we're not going to sit up here and throw some pity party for Caitlin Clark like she's Miss Innocent when we would be looking to throw everything in the direction of Angel Reese with the vitriol that has been aimed in her direction. We ain't going to do that. But what we will acknowledge is Angel Reese is popular and she's valuable. She ain't Caitlin Clark. She's not that player, and she's not the box office attraction that Caitlin Clark is. That's number one. Number two, because Caitlin Clark is that box office attraction, initially we thought that the league was being jeopardized because if she's not able to play every night, it compromises their numbers, revenue-wise, ratings-wise, attendance-wise, etc. It compromises them. But it gets a bit deeper because, again, the Trump administration has shown it's willing to demand change, proposing federal standards barring men from women's NCAA athletics, issuing sweeping Title VI warnings to more than 60 schools, and launching a Justice Department anti-Semitism task force. Senator Jim Banks' 2024 letter to WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert demanded answers on Ms. Clark's treatment. Congress and the administration should demand answers from WNBA leaders, investigate officiating and internal league communications, hold hearings, and insist on real reforms. This is in a Wall Street Journal. The Labor Department should review the league protocols for workplace safety. If evidence shows discrimination or retaliation, the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division must act. If leaders remain inert, Congress should reconsider the WNBA's special privileges, including its antitrust and broadcast considerations. Checking referees' work with NBA-style last 2-minute reports would be a meaningful first step toward building trust. That was the first salvo. I'm not asking you. This is Stephen A., baby. I'm telling you. It's the first salvo. It's not an accident that this is coming shortly after the WNBA players foolishly wore those shirts. As Candace Parker pointed out, pay us what you owe us, antagonizing the league, with pending CBA negotiations coming. That's what they did. And Candace Parker was like, no, you don't do that when you're trying to get stuff done. You don't do that. But that's what they did. And shortly after that, knowing that the players, because of how the league has grown, because of the collective effort put forth by the players before Caitlin Clark ever arrived, but certainly since she's arrived, the players were making a case of what they deserve and what they earn. And right around the time that happens, now you got the Justice Department and the Trump administration being egged on to pay attention to this issue so it will get addressed. And when you have Senator Jim Banks, a senator, writing a letter to the WNBA commissioner demanding answers on Caitlin Clark's treatment, yes, ladies and gentlemen, it could be politically expedient. Yes, this could be all about feeding the MAGA base. Yes, this could end up being much ado about nothing. But it's not. Because a CBA negotiation is imminent and will be ongoing. And those players that are talking about their value, what's going to be held against you is looking at your value when Caitlin Clark is not playing. And when you see a precipitous drop off, it ain't going to be about y'all, it's going to be about her. Even if it's wrong. Even if it's unfair, that's how it's going to go down. And when it goes down like that, that's exactly the kind of ammunition that the president will use to his advantage as he so sees fit. People are speculating what he's doing with Epstein. As Charlamagne said, he went after Beyonce. He goes after, he mentions P. Diddy. He mentions Kamala Harris and Michelle Obama and Barack Obama and now him. Anything to divert attention away from the Epstein files. So says Charlamagne the God. Well, in this instance, the latest evasive measure that appears to be on the verge of coming into play is the president using treatment towards this golden goose, a spectacular talent that is one of the preeminent futures, if not the future face of the WNBA, if she isn't considered that already, in Caitlin Clark, who also happens to be white, playing in the Midwest, with evidence of unfair treatment. They tried to use arguments like this when they were talking about DEI. Now they're going to have it for this. You think he won't use it? You think the president won't use this as advantage? I got a better question. You think it won't work? White America still makes up 57% of the population. Caitlin Clark chirps she goes off all the time. I don't mean chirp in a negative way. I'm just talking about athletes talking smack to one another. I ain't hating on it. I love it, actually. It's no big deal. But she does it, no big deal. Barely goes unnoticed. But 17 flagrant fouls have been called against people for beating up on Caitlin Clark. That's practically double what's happened for any other player in the league. They have evidence to say she's being treated unfairly. Even though I think it's just basketball and I think allow them to be competitive and they prefer for competitive juices to flow. I'm not talking about what I feel. I'm talking about the argument that this administration and this Department of Justice can make. You already saw the senator sent the letter. You think that's an accident? More's coming, y'all. Caitlin Clark gonna make national news. Caitlin Clark is going to be politicized. It's coming. I can smell it. And you see how big my nose is. I can smell it. They politicized Colin Kaepernick over kneeling for the national anthem when he never interfered with anything from kickoff to the final buzzer. Final gun sounded. Never interfered with anything. Just took a knee during the national anthem. Marshawn Lynch, beast mode, was sitting on water coolers, eating a banana during the national anthem. They didn't say anything. But Trump wants to politicize Colin Kaepernick years ago. And that was because he had something against the NFL owners who wouldn't let him become owner of the Buffalo Bills back in 2014. This, a young star white young lady, getting beat up on a basketball court in their eyes? They're going to try to make that more profound than Kaepernick. WNBA, you've been forewarned. You got to address this. Kill this noise now. Make sure you do what you got to do. Last 2-minute reports from the referees. Emulate that from the NBA and institute that immediately. And start ejecting people if their behavior is too excessive against everybody, not just Caitlin Clark. Have a consistent policy. Don't make them find evidence that this inconsistency that's disfavorable to Caitlin Clark. Oh, there will be hell to pay. Based on this story right here, it's the first salvo. It's not an accident that this was put out now. The timing couldn't be more perfect for Trump and the Justice Department. It's not an accident that's coming out shortly after they wore those shirts and while a CBA negotiation is pending. It's not an accident. My last words. If it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it ain't a damn mongoose. Open your eyes, y'all. Open your eyes. That's it for this special edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show. Thanks again to Charlamagne the God for jumping on short notice to join me to talk about President Trump going right at him. Appreciated his conversation with me. Appreciate y'all watching and listening to the show. I'll see y'all in a few days. Until then, peace and love, everybody.
Straight Shooter with Stephen A.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest edition of Straight Shooter with yours truly, Stephen A. Smith, coming at you every Wednesday night from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time over the airways of Sirius XM, POTUS Radio, Channel 124. Number to call up, as always, is 866-967-6887. That's 866-967-6887. 866-96-POTUS. That is the number to call up. Let me get right to it because I've been annoyed all week long. And it's not because of people that I'm about to talk to, because we've got Representative James Clyburn coming into studio this evening. I'm here in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., right down the block from the state capitol and what have you. And Representative Clyburn is coming in part to promote his new book, The First Eight, a personal history of the pioneers, black congressmen who shaped the nation. So I'm interested in talking to him about that, but it's inescapable how we're going to talk about the Democratic Party, the world of politics that is going on as we speak, the kind of things that we have to deal with, and the kind of things that I think has served to divide this country instead of bringing us together. Now, I'm not living pie in the sky, and I don't have an attitude, particularly here in the nation's capital in front of a live studio audience. I don't have this kind of attitude where I'm living in a fantasy world, not recognizing that division is a part of life, that people have different beliefs, different ideology. They walk around thinking and feeling the way that they want and the way that they believe. And sometimes that's diametrically opposed to fellow American citizens. Nobody is oblivious enough to know that that kind of stuff doesn't happen. But the manner in which those feelings, those emotions are stoked by people on Capitol Hill is something that I've lamented for quite a long time. And one of the biggest reasons why I've been involved in the world of politics these days. I have a job. Life is pretty damn nice. I could have stayed in sports and minded my business and lived happily ever after. But as an American citizen, as a black man, as a voter, somebody that's concerned and prides myself in being a conscientious observer, I look at the things that divide our nation and I get really, really perturbed over it, to say the least. And Donald Trump's reaction to Rob Reiner and his wife being killed, allegedly by their son over the weekend, is the latest kind of stuff that I'm talking about. Understand that we've got more important issues going on. I'm certainly not trying to imply that two individuals being murdered, heinously I might add, by their own son, allegedly, is not important. I'm certainly not trying to imply that. But that's going to affect the lives of them and their families. What we're talking about here with the Affordable Care Act and the subsidies is tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions, of American citizens. You've got a situation where the Affordable Care Act and the subsidies that were implemented during COVID, it reaches an expiration December 31st. As of January 1st, premiums are expected to rise sky high. And there are an abundance of Americans that's going to have a very, very difficult time paying for that. And what we see on Capitol Hill is a bunch of nonsense that's been going on. And I'll get into all of that in a second. But if I'm going to bring up the word nonsense, the first order of business is to start off with the president, who I will openly admit has pissed me off. And the reason he's pissed me off is because he's made life difficult for people like myself who are inclined and downright anxious to talk about the issues and say yay or nay to it. How do you feel about his performance on the economy? How do you feel about inflation in this day and age and what it's looking like right now? Is there an impending recession, or are we already in one? What about immigration? What about border security? What about the use of ICE in order to sort of support his goal? What about safety in the streets of America? What about the jobless rate? What about unemployment reaching about 4.6%, which is the highest it's been since 2021? What about this money that was supposed to be coming into this country, courtesy of all of these pledges you received, and whether or not that was going to come to fruition, generating in excess of trillions of dollars, which was going to help fuel the economy while also dissipating that $38.4 trillion debt that we're supposed to be trying to trim down? What about those things? Those are issues. Wouldn't you say those are issues worth talking about? I'd say those are issues that are worth talking about. But we don't get to talk about that. Why? Because they had the Epstein files that obviously were relevant in people's eyes to some degree, so much so that some members of MAGA turned against Trump with that. Originally, his attitude after campaigning on it, by the way, after campaigning on releasing that stuff, you know what it was going to be about? Hey, it's no big deal. What's the big deal? It's really not a problem. Why are you guys so fixated on this? Until MAGA folks got involved and said, wait a damn minute. You did campaign on this. This issue is important to us. We want those files open. And then after much resistance, all of a sudden we learned, after our votes on Capitol Hill, that eventually it will be released this month. Not immediately. We'll take a look. We'll see. We'll grab hold of it. We'll see what we want to redact or whatever, and then we'll sit up there and we'll put it out there for you to see. I can't wait to see how much stuff is blacked off. But that's a different subject to another day. To Rob Reiner and his wife, allegedly brutally murdered by their own son. Even had Kevin Frazier from Entertainment Tonight come on this show and said there was rumors and reports about their throats being slashed. Originally, we heard about a $4 million bond for their son Nick to be let out of jail. And then we heard bond was revoked and there is no bond. He's going to have to stay in jail for the foreseeable future. And before the bodies got cold, excuse my expression. I'm not trying to be inappropriate here. I'm trying to accentuate the seriousness of how vile, how disgusting, how belligerent, how petty our president can be. This man, the 47th president of the United States, puts out this tweet 2 days ago. I'm going to read it to you. Quote, very sad thing happened last night in Hollywood. Rob Reiner, a tortured and struggling but once very talented movie director and comedy star, has passed away, together with his wife, Michelle, reportedly due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding, and incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as Trump derangement syndrome, sometimes referred to as TDS. He was known to have driven people crazy by his raging obsession of President Donald J. Trump, with his obvious paranoia reaching new heights as the Trump administration surpassed all goals and expectations of greatness. And with the golden age of America upon us, perhaps like never before, may Rob and Michelle rest in peace. Classless, tasteless, asinine, disgusting, all of those things are appropriate. Something people are hesitant to say about the president these days. Now, I'm a person that's been on the record, and I have been raging against the Democratic Party that I've had nothing but disgust for over the last couple of years because of their strong leaning towards woke and cancer culture and the extreme left. And for those who had a problem with me taking that position, let me stay here in front of the cameras, in front of the live studio audience. I could give less than a damn. I don't care. Because to me, the vast majority of American citizens, even when you don't get what you want, the vast majority of American citizens are not on the fringes. They're towards the center. Not totally, but they're towards there. Reasonable conclusions, a willingness to compromise, and understanding that everybody doesn't get everything they want. Because all of us don't think the same. We're not from the same DNA. We don't have the same proclivities. We don't have the same preferences. We don't have the same likes. We don't have the same beliefs. And that's okay. Because in a country like the United States of America, which is supposed to be a gorgeous mosaic, one of the elements that we lean on is a level of understanding that we have towards and respect towards one another for the fact that you might be different than I am. And something might be more important to you than it is to me. You might care more about the economy than I do. Somebody else might care about abortion more than somebody else. Somebody else might care more about the border than somebody else. Somebody else's priority might be safety in the streets. And because all of those things are going on, you have to have a level of sensitivity towards those things and understand and appreciate the differences. But it's easier to accept, in my estimation, when you are dealing with folks on Capitol Hill who get that, and to make sure that they disseminate that kind of message so they don't cause chaos and disruption and mayhem in the streets of America while they're on Capitol Hill. You remember what they did during the shutdown, don't you? 43 days. Government employees furloughed or laid off, let go. And those who were kept weren't being paid. Weren't being paid. But the politicians were being paid. So the people who were elected officials, assigned, I might add, assigned to work on Capitol Hill in a productive enough fashion to avoid shutdowns, these same people didn't do their job. That lent itself towards you not getting paid, but then they turned around and they get paid. This is what has been going on. This is the problem. This is why you see a level of frustration that turns violent. Remember, I come from the world of sports. Fan. That's short for fanatics. In the world of sports. So coming from that world and seeing how rabid people can be, you develop a level of understanding that makes you say, if they're that way with sports, how are they going to be with real life? Because sports don't determine your health care. Sports don't determine your safety in the streets. Sports doesn't concern your affordability. You can choose to go to a game. You can choose not to go. You can choose to support your team. You can choose to purchase cable and watch them on television. You can choose to do a lot of things, or you can choose not to. You have that choice at your disposal. Our choices are left up to the politicians on Chapel Hill when it comes to real life issues. When you've got the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, and its subsidies scheduled to expire December 31st, you've got people that were paying $260 a month that are expecting to pay over $2,000 if that doesn't get addressed. What are you going to do about that? The average American citizen can't afford that. They can't afford that kind of discrepancy. They can't afford that spike. But instead of talking about these things, instead of making sure you negotiate these things to get these matters resolved, we've heard about all of this other stuff. And now you've got Trump issuing quotes like this to a point where, okay, Marjorie Taylor Greene, even she had to speak out against him. Rob Reiner and his wife were tragically killed at the hands of their own son, who reportedly had drug addiction and other issues. And their remaining children are left in serious mourning and heartbreak. This is a family tragedy, not about politics or political enemies. Many families deal with a family member with drug addiction and mental health issues. It's incredibly difficult and should be met with empathy, especially when it ends in murders. How about Representative Thomas Massie? These are both Republicans now. In fairness to the GOP, everybody's not falling in line with Trump the way that they were doing the first few months of his return to the White House. Representative Massey, regardless of how you felt about Rob Reiner, this is inappropriate and disrespectful discourse about a man who was just brutally murdered. I guess my elected GOP colleagues, the VP, and the White House staff will just ignore it because they're afraid. I challenge anyone to defend it. Another representative, Mike Lawler. This statement is wrong. Regardless of one's political views, no one should be subjected to violence, let alone at the hands of their own son. It's a horrible tragedy that should engender sympathy and compassion from everyone in our country, period. Piers Morgan. This is a dreadful thing to say about a man who just got murdered by his troubled son. Delete it, Mr. President. Delete it. Let me make sure that I quote Senator Ted Cruz, who was sitting right here next to me in this same studio just about 3 weeks ago or so. He says, I'm deeply saddened by the horrific murder of Rob Reiner and his wife. He was one of the most talented movie makers to have ever lived. From Spinal Tap to When Harry Met Sally, from A Few Good Men to my favorite movie of all time, The Princess Bride, we are weeping the loss of a comedic and storytelling master. His movies touched us deeply and spoke to our fundamental humanity. Rob Reiner was one of a kind, and he will be missed. The tragic circumstances of his murder make it all the more horrible. Heidi and I are praying for his family. Rest in peace. Here's what we should pay attention to. For a change, we haven't heard anything from the Democrats. And I want to say thank you. I applaud that. Because the chances are, if the Democrats open their mouth, they'd blow the momentum they're building. You see, this hatred for President Trump, justified or not, depending on who you ask, the reality is that it's been an impediment to the Democrats' success along the way. And that's how I'm looking at this.
Sorry to bust your bubble, Stephen A. Smith, but the Democrats is gaining no momentum nowhere. No way, no how. So knock it off. I just wanted to bring y'all a little bit of hypocrisy, you know what I mean? From your boy Stephen A. Smith over there. Well, check it out. One day he on this side, the next day he on that side. Man, pick a side, man. Cause we hate flip-floppers over here. We trying to make America great. 1, 2. All right, we 3 hours in. We're gonna shut it down so we can pull it back up. Some brand new situations that's going on. Cause your boy Stephen A. Smith and Charlamagne the God are both hypocrites, if you ask me. And it's just my opinion. Allegedly. Allegedly, Charlamagne the God got his own situations going on from back in the days that he should worry about. He should concern himself a little bit more with that situation rather than trying to send this country into a uproar. That's what you want, Charlamagne to go. That's what you want, Stephen A. Smith. I don't think neither one of you ready for that. Facts. Wolfgang Puck. We getting up out of here, baby. Let's go. Give it up for Stephen A. Smith and his commentary today. Just to show the other side.